The Age of the Mecha, Fists That Shatter Stars. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 426 Mission. Li Yu smiled and said, "It's okay. Both the body and soul have improved a bit, but there's nothing else, really." Tan Yaozu was suspicious. Li Yu shrugged and said, "No need to fool you, Brother Tan. In fact, he did hide something. Mainly because he was afraid that Tan Yaozu would scream and have a myocardial infarction again. He hasn't carefully calculated the pure physical strength, but he estimates that he should be able to beat Zhao He." Li Yu had learned before that at the level of the strongest, Qin Longquan, Lin Jianlong, and Duan Mushang, who were promoted to demigods, all condensed 3 strongest cores and were very strong. In other words, it is equivalent to condensing 9 ordinary divine cores and then undergoing 3 strongest amplifications. For someone like Zhao he condensed 2.2 strongest cores, which is equivalent to 7 divine cores and has undergone 2 strongest amplifications. Zhang Shengfang's strength is also in this range, slightly stronger than Zhao He, equivalent to 8 divine cores, and only twice. The difference in strength among the strongest people is mainly due to the strongest amplification. Every 3 divine elemental cores that combine into one strongest elemental core will produce a massive amplification. Judging from the actual combat performance, a Qin Longquan before being promoted to demigod can at least beat 5 Zhao He's or 3 Zhang Shengfangs. The amplification in between is greater than simply piling up 3 times the divine genes. Li Yu currently has almost the same number of divine genes as 4.5 cores. The full quota has 2 cores of the Thunder God sequence, 1 core of the Hades, and 1 core of the Immortal. However, the amplification of the total amount of divinity in the physical core is far less than the strongest amplification of the strongest people. If it weren't for his various bodybuilding methods and fighting skills that reach the realm of God, he really couldn't have the strength to surpass Zhao He and his group. At the very least, the total amount of divinity has also been amplified by the divinity of the prison suppression, which has exceeded the 9th stage of the heavenly rank and reached the level comparable to the strongest. Fortunately, his fighting style has never required much divinity. As a master of skills, he plays with a means of using a little to get a lot. Seeing Li Yu's expression, Tan Yaozu guessed that Li Yu must have some reservations. But since he didn't really say it, he didn't intend to ask further. Just to save face for himself. After thinking for a while, he changed the subject and said, "Speaking of which, Chief Lin looks a little strange when he comes back this time. Besides, he said before that he would bring Flame back, but he didn't see him." "It's really strange." Hearing this, Li Yu said thoughtfully, "Maybe this is also related to his sudden request to see us. After all, according to the original plan, we should leave for the border star now." While talking, the 2 of them also accelerated, and the divine flames outside their bodies burst out. Whoosh! 3 minutes later, the 2 appeared above the helipad on the other side of the lunar fortress. Lin Jianlong was seen looking at the earth with his back to the earth, and his figure was perpendicular to the edge of the earth. "Chief Lin, I've been waiting for a long time." The 2 landed quickly. In addition to Lin Jianlong, there was another powerful person outside the helipad. Who was Lin Jianlong's deputy Xiao Pingchuan? Li Yu thought Xiao Pingchuan had already left for the border planet, but he didn't expect that he was still here. He noticed that Xiao Pingchuan's face was a little solemn. Lin Jianlong turned around and nodded slightly to Li Yu and Tan Yaozu. "Have all the strongest combat forces of the lunar fortress arrived? Then I'll make it short. Originally, the 3 of you had your own plans, but because of the sudden incident, I need to transfer a few strongest combat forces to assist, so your plans will be temporarily handled by others, and the 4 of us will carry out another top-secret mission next. Now, I will give you 10 minutes to arrange your affairs, and after that, we will set off quickly." "Arrange your affairs?" Li Yu and Tan Yaozu looked at each other, both a little surprised. "Is this wording a little inappropriate?" Lin Jianlong smiled and said, "You don't have to think too much, because the time period of our mission will be relatively long, and we may not be able to contact relatives and friends for a long time, so you'd better explain it well to avoid worrying your family and friends." After thinking for a while, Tan Yaozu said, "Excuse me, what exactly is this mission? We are at the decision-making level after all, so we shouldn't be unable to know any news, right?" Lin Jianlong nodded. "Of course, I will definitely explain the details of the mission to you later. But now time is limited, and we must set off as soon as possible, so it's better for you to complete the explanation to relatives and friends as soon as possible within 10 minutes. Don't worry, I have been in charge of federal military affairs for many years, so I don't have no credibility. Li Yu quietly activated the microelectric characteristics and carefully sensed Lin Jianlong's brainwave activities. However, Lin Jianlong's strength is not weak after all, and his soul strength is very high. It's not like he was captured when he faced a clone of Puang Supreme before. Therefore, Li Yu made a hasty judgment and could only confirm that Lin Jianlong was not lying. After thinking for a moment, Li Yu said, I don't need to spend time explaining to some friends, Chief Lin, just say it directly. Seeing this, Tan Yaozu also said, I don't need to be so troublesome, just leave a text message. Lin Jianlong laughed, okay, then let's talk while walking, follow me. As he said that, he jumped towards the starship passage next door. The mission is simple, but the cycle will indeed be longer. According to the intelligence, 3 branch-level masters of the Star Clan have found some clues to the decryption and are preparing to go to the ruins of time at the end of the Stardust Corridor to find the decryption code. As long as they find the decryption code, they can directly activate the function of the time book and anchor the fate of our strongest level combat power on the time book, and directly destroy it. Even their recorded high-level combat power cannot escape. Now I will send you the detailed information of these 3 branch-level masters, and we can do a combat simulation in the starship later. In addition, there is another secret. To prevent the news from being leaked, let's talk about it after we set off. Xiao Pingchuan did not speak and followed directly. Li Yu and Tan Yaozu looked at each other. The two exchanged glances quickly, and Li Yu gave Tan Yaozu a look of affirmation. Lin Jianlong did not lie just now. Since Lin Jianlong did not lie, the possibility of Lin Jianlong's problem was temporarily ruled out. In other words, the Star Clan's strategy of cutting off the source of the trouble was indeed dangerous, and it was likely to directly lead to the failure of the blitzkrieg they had been planning for a long time. And this was not the biggest danger. The biggest danger was that as long as the 3 branch-level strongmen of the Star Clan succeeded in their plan, they would probably fall inexplicably. Tan Yaozu immediately said, I have left a message, and we can set off. As he said that, he jumped and landed behind Xiao Pingchuan. Li Yu also followed lightly. Director Lin, will we miss the final battle this time? Li Yu asked. The final battle? Lin Jianlong smiled. I'm afraid our mission is the core of the final outcome of this battle. 3 Hibu-level strongmen, plus the times Hibu they each carry, the combined combat power of these 3, I'm afraid our current ratio may not be able to win. Now we just hope that Laolu, Lao Zhang, and Yan, these 3 guys can wake up smoothly. Tan Yaozu's heart moved, and asked, are Laolu, Lao Zhang, and Yan all in a starship? And what is the situation of Yan's successful awakening? Lin Jianlong, Yan's situation is a little complicated. Chapter 427 Secret. How complicated is it? Chief Lin, why don't you elaborate? Anyway, we have time now, Li Yu said. The 4 people have entered the starship. Their respective divine mechas were also quickly arranged to be sent into them. All the way to the cockpit, Lin Jianlong waved his hand and said, let's go. The pilot was sitting there. When he saw Lin Jianlong's signal, he reached out and pulled up the joystick. Boom. The starship took off in the air in a tremor. It rose to a height of 30 meters, and flames spewed out from the stern of the ship. It suddenly accelerated, streaked a stream of light, and flew to the downward entrance of the Stargate on the other side of the lunar fortress. Let's go to another place. I'll talk about the discovery of the time ruins. Lin Jianlong glanced at the 3 people and signaled to change the place to talk. As he said, he turned and left the cockpit and came to the center of the small training ground at the lower end of the starship. Li Yu's heart moved slightly. So cautious? This starship can carry out top-secret missions, so it should have been checked clearly. Why do you have to deliberately come to such an open place to talk? Float up and don't touch anything, then activate the divine will, cover your body, completely wrap it up, and don't let anything in except air and free energy. Lin Jianlong pushed the divine power outside his body, and his body floated to a height of 5 meters. He sat cross-legged in mid-air and transmitted a message to several people. I think you have guessed something. Yes, there is a certain existence that may be watching us. Our conversation must avoid the existence of physical media as much as possible. Medium? Does it mean that a certain strong person is using some conceptual characteristics to directly monitor the physical matter next to Lin Jianlong, in the conceptual sense? Since everyone's main characteristics have reached the conceptual characteristics, they have roughly known how to play this kind of game. For example, Li Yu's microelectric characteristics do not have conceptual characteristics yet, but he can use his powerful brain power and combine the feedback of microelectric characteristics in other people's brains to build a model in his own mind. With the help of this model, he can identify other people's brain wave signals and complete the deciphering. This is the principle of his mind-reading ability. Of course, he rarely uses it on people, and only activates it when he needs to interrogate. When his microelectric characteristics gradually become stronger until he has very strong conceptual characteristics, he can expand his perception range through the medium of microelectricity. For example, when he wants to find a person with special brain waves, as long as he activates this characteristic, he can achieve his goal in a wide range. It is similar to searching for people with specific characteristics within a range of 100,000 kilometers. This operation, like finding a needle in a haystack, can be easily completed. When the characteristics are stronger, it can even be accurate to a specific area and distance. The more conceptualized the characteristics are, the more highly abstract the gameplay can be used. True abstraction. Of course, Li Yu is far from this point at present. At present, being able to achieve the stage where the characteristics affect time and space is already a stage that most of the strongest people may not be able to do at will. Like other top powerhouses in the Ice God sequence, they generally use conceptualized ice, water, frost, and fog to achieve remote monitoring. Each sequence has its own medium that can be used to achieve perception. The difference lies in the different degree of conceptualization required. In general, conceptual characteristics that tend to be perception-oriented are easier to achieve. But without exception, being able to monitor a top-level power through a medium is definitely a method that even demigods cannot master. However, since he is so powerful, why bother to monitor him? The three of them had their own doubts. Li Yu and Tan Yaozu were completely unaware of the situation, while Xiao Pingchuan only knew part of the situation. At this moment, they were all a little surprised and suspicious when they heard this statement. They looked at each other, each of them activated their divinity and floated up. Director Lin, this so-called medium can even cover the special alloy floor of the starship? Then how conceptualized is it? Who is our monitor? Tan Yaozu expressed his doubts. Fortunately, the air and free energy do not need to be shielded, otherwise they would doubt their lives. Lin Jianlong said, it is a top-level quasi-god who claims to be the split of the Supreme Puang. Supreme Puang? Wow, why is it this guy again? He is too haunted, right? Tan Yaozu was shocked. Wasn't the Supreme Puang suppressed on the Wudao Divine Mountain? How could he have an impact on the area outside the Wudao Divine Mountain? Li Yu frowned and said, General Lin should have read our battle records before and know that we also encountered the clone of Supreme Puang. What I am more curious about is, what is the difference between this quasi-god level clone and the clone in the Wudao Divine Mountain? The difference is that this clone wants to devour its master, Lin Jianlong said. When I was looking for flame in the time ruins, I encountered this quasi-god who was highly related to Supreme Puang. However, he had no intention of killing me at that time. He claimed that he wanted to make a deal with humans just to occupy the supreme position occupied by Supreme Puang and get promoted. Hearing this, everyone was a little curious. Supreme position, what is this? Is there a pit position for promotion to Supreme? The higher you go, the fewer positions you have? Lin Jianlong nodded and said, I guess you can guess that if we can't master high precision and high control space-time abilities to relieve the burden of the universe on us, we can only break through the strength limit of the quasi-gods through the supreme position. It is said that at the beginning of the first era, there was no supreme level between quasi-gods and true gods, until more and more quasi-gods were stuck in bottlenecks and could not continue to advance. A supreme level was slowly developed in between, but when there were more supreme levels, the later ones found that as long as the supremes who were not promoted through space time abilities would interfere with the subsequent promotion of other lower sequences, in most cases, only one supreme can appear in a sequence, ice, fire, wind and thunder. These great positions can only produce 2 or 3 supremes at most. Some alien god sequences can never even give birth to supremes. Hearing this, Li Yu's heart moved slightly. This is consistent with the situation Qin Longchuan explained before. No wonder it is difficult to continue to move up in this era. Maybe, not only the supreme position, but even the quasi-god position is blocked. Moreover, there were so many recorded supremas in the previous eras, and even though the civilization of the fifth era was more brilliant and the strength of the supremas was stronger, the total number was obviously less. In this era, even quasi-gods can be counted on one's fingers. This is certainly due to the short development time, but it can be imagined that the predecessors have blocked the way for the successors. It seems that Lin Jianlong has gained something from encountering the differentiated body of Supreme Puang in the outside world this time. Tan Yaozu obviously figured out something, and gritted his teeth and said, "These ancestors are really rubbish. Others are grateful for the source of water, but they drink water and cut off the source." Li Yi asked, "Then what about what Chief Lin said before, that we need to wait for Flame to wake up?" Chapter 428 Flame. "Yan is dead," Lin Jianlong said calmly. "Dead? Then what will happen if he wakes up?" Everyone listened patiently to Lin Jianlong continue to speak. "I'm not sure who killed her, but it should have nothing to do with quasi-god Puang. According to quasi-god Puang, when he came here, he had already found the dead Yan, but although she is dead, she also left herself a means of resurrection." Tan Yaozu blinked and said, "Director Lin, excuse me, is it possible that this quasi-god is lying to you?" Lin Jianlong nodded and said, "Of course it is possible. I am also on guard against his surveillance now. I don't know where this guy is hiding, but on my way to the Moon Fortress, I vaguely sensed some strange gazes several times, and the power of this gaze is different every time, but it all comes from the objects around me, so I suspect that he is monitoring us through some physical medium. But then again, if he really killed Yan, he wouldn't leave such a big flaw and corpse for me to resurrect. With his strength, even if I get there, I can easily destroy the corpse, so I think he didn't lie to me about killing Yan, but in other things, we still have to be on guard." The three of them roughly understood what happened at this time. However, the doubts in their hearts remained. "Then will our mission this time be related to quasi-god Puang?" Xiao Pingchuan finally spoke and asked. Lin Jianlong said, "Of course it is related. In fact, the so-called reliable information I got from quasi-god Puang on the one hand, and on the other hand, I personally activated the characteristics of the cosmic light and went deep into the scorching star field to explore. Only then did I confirm that the three branch-level powerhouses of the Star Clan did sneak into the Stardust Corridor to search for the remains of the years." The faces of the three people changed slightly. According to this statement, it seems that the matter of the three branch-level powerhouses is indeed more important. It seems that these three people are probably unwilling to be defeated by humans, and are also worried that humans will counterattack at any time, so they stepped up the pace of the search. Li Yi said thoughtfully, "The clues to crack the secret book of time that have not been discovered for so many years have suddenly been discovered. Behind this, it is possible that quasi-god Puang has made a move. Others have had similar doubts in their hearts. What Li Yi said is what I am worried about. So although our mission is imminent, we also need to be cautious and must not fall into the trap set by Supreme Puang." Lin Jianlong nodded slightly. "How should we wake up Yan? Can we only wait for her resurrection method to work? We just have time. Let's go and see the status of Yan together." Lin Jianlong looked at Li Yi and said, "Every profession has its own specialty. Although I have also dabbled in soul characteristics, I am not good at it after all. Li Yi, your body forging method seems to have made good progress recently. Perhaps you can use your body forging method to help Yan." As he said that, Lin Jianlong began to fly in another direction. The three followed him. "By the way, if you want to communicate secret matters in the future, just transmit the sound directly. Don't use that crude technique to transmit the sound. I will teach you a technique of soul transmission here. You should learn it quickly." As he spoke, the universe-like divine will outside Lin Jianlong's body shook, and a strange soul power was wrapped in this divine will and transmitted to the minds of the three people. In an instant, a large number of information appeared in the minds of the three people. Li Yi was slightly shocked. Lin Jianlong's soul skills were quite good. He could transmit so much information in a split second. He was not good at it, but only compared to Flame. The content of this information was very similar to the composition method that Li Yi had seen in the Soul Spire of the Heritage Ruins before. It was similar to the vacuum purification method that he had translated. After looking at the information for a while, Li Yi looked at Lin Jianlong in surprise. Lin Jianlong seemed to feel Li Yi's gaze and said through soul transmission, "You guessed right. This technique originated from the Heritage Ruins. Before I participated in the Border Star War, I was focusing on studying the soul spire and gained a lot. I saw you upload a secret method of soul cultivation before. We can exchange ideas later." Li Yu laughed dumbly. He didn't expect it to be true. While talking, the three of them had already mastered the little skill of soul transmission. This thing is not difficult. The main reason is that everyone is a supreme soul, and they already have a certain strength and can fly bricks with great force. If they were replaced by a high-level heavenly stage, I'm afraid they might not be able to learn it so quickly. In a blink of an eye, they arrived at the dormant cabin. Soon, Li Yi and his companions saw Lu Yunsheng sleeping, and another sleeping woman. The previously found Lu, and another ancient human, were also here. It seemed that Lin Jianlong was also ready to wait for Yan to wake up and let Yan retrieve the souls of these people. Several people walked to Yan's side. Through the transparent window of the hibernation capsule, a woman with closed eyes and extremely beautiful appearance could be seen. Without looking at anything else, just looking at her appearance and age, she was about 24 or 25 years old. She was the kind of beauty that had Shatter childishness but was not too mature. She had a strong face, long and dense eyelashes, jade-like skin, a high nose bridge, flaming red lips, a pair of long legs, and a curvy figure. "Hiss, she's so beautiful," Tan Yaozu exclaimed. "Even an old man like me who has lived in seclusion for more than 100 years can still feel amazed." Lin Jianlong smiled faintly, and then sighed. "It's normal. Yan is a super beauty that we humans rarely see. She is strong and beautiful, but she is a little miserable. Since she was in the middle of the heavenly position, she has been on the aliens hunting list and has been running for her life." Li Yu also nodded. Yan's appearance is indeed outstanding. Even if she just closes her eyes and sleeps there, she has a kind of eye-catching charm. In terms of appearance and temperament, even Chen Kai Ongzi, the great beauty in Li Yu's mind, is slightly inferior. However, ignoring these, Yan's soul fluctuations are indeed amazing. Although Yan is obviously in a dormant state, Li Yu can perceive that Yan's brain is very active and the brain wave signals are very dense. It seems that her soul is fighting against the fluctuations caused by something. "Li Yu, do you see anything?" Lin Jianlong looked at Li Yi. Li Yu pondered and said, "Deep in the soul of Senior Yan. It seems that she is fighting against something. I don't know whether it was taken over by another body, or if there is some rule that her soul must resist in order to revive. I can try to use the bodybuilding method to strengthen her, but whether it will work depends on luck." Lin Jianlong said, "As long as there is a probability of success, it will take us half a month to go to the Great Time Ruins. You can come and try during this time." Chapter 429 Talent. Li Yu would naturally not refuse to forge Yan. On the contrary, he also had great expectations for forging Yan. He could even say that he was eager to try. After all, this was a senior and powerful person who specialized in soul. If he could help her forge and transform, and absorb the details of the transformation in the physique of the soul sequence, it would definitely be of great help to his physical body completion. Moreover, in the divine sequence that he was currently focusing on, there were few soul sequences. The only one that was related at present was the ice prison feature in the Pluto sequence. This feature was quite special. Generally, it was a divine suppression effect formed by the freezing environment after the freezing feature was activated. In short, it was a battlefield, control, and suppression skill. After receiving and upgrading the foundation of the God-suppressing prison, the ice prison feature had also been improved to a certain extent, and had some characteristics of suppressing the soul. But it had not yet been fully upgraded to a conceptual feature. Due to the diversity of Li Yi's own methods, there were few scenes in which this feature could be used in combat. In addition, he was born with a soul that could absorb the memory of parallel worlds, so he didn't really consider the elements of soul characteristics in his original design of the divinity plan. Li Yu walked forward and opened the hibernation capsule. Click. A slender figure wearing a tight red driving suit in the style of the Deep Space Fleet's main ship appeared. It can be seen that Yan's long fiery red hair was slightly scattered on the hibernation capsule, and the light seemed to flow through the ends of her hair. Li Yu directly activated the divinity, turned into an invisible hand, grabbed Yan's body, and dropped it to a wide area on the side. The hand of divinity lifted Yan's neck skin, and a pair of jade feet floated on the ground. Li Yu adjusted his breathing and activated the Thunder God sequence Divine Moil. Get close and punch. Start forging. Snap. Snap. Puff. Li Yu completed the amazing transformation from extreme stillness to extreme movement in an instant, punching like lightning, with a majestic spirit. However, after a series of forgings, it was like a drop in the ocean, without any movement at all. The loud Li Yi frowned slightly. Yan's physical strength was much higher than he expected. It seemed that Yan should be the fourth top-level strongest person among humans. He had not actually measured the physical strength of Qin, Lin, and Zhuanmu, but he thought that even if Yan was not as strong as these three, he was not far behind, far better than Zhao He, and one or two better than Li Yi now. In other words, Yan was not far from the perfection of the three strongest Yuan cores. Li Yi had never produced a significant effect in this level of physical forging before. For example, Zhao He, Li Yi had forged him before, but the effect was not great. However, at that time, Li Yi had not yet cultivated a small success version of the ice god body. The gravitational transformation method extracted from Xiao Pingchuan and the cold dragon transformation method from Chen Yanzhang were not perfected. The microscopic perception accuracy had not yet been broken through. Now, it is possible to try other new versions of the body forging method for Yan. Li Yi began to adjust the forging frequency. As the power of his punches increased, some cracks appeared on Yan's red driving uniform. His punches were all controlled in detail, penetrating into her body, with a high degree of control, and generally would not break the clothes on the surface of her body. However, due to the natural recoil of Yan's body, over time, these tough protective clothing had more and more cracks, revealing a bit of Snow White. But at this time, Li Yi could no longer care about these, because he felt an unprecedented brain waveform in the feedback from Yan's body. After a little deciphering during the forging, it was found that Yan's brain waves seemed to vaguely reflect the traces of a soul cultivation secret method that had never been seen before. And this secret method, Li Yi found that it was actually 3 points similar to the brain wave fluctuations when he entered the dream plane. And as he forged, Yan's body began to slowly strengthen, and the characteristics of this brain wave became closer to Li Yi. Although it was far less complex and secretive than his own brain waves, it also had a bit of charm. The other dissimilar places had other mysteries. As time passed, Li Yi's forging gradually lasted for the 30th minute. At this time, Li Yi had collected and decoded most of Yan's brain wave patterns. Among them, about 30% are similar to the characteristics of his brain waves when he was dreaming, which were simplified by more than 10%. The other 70% should represent some secret method or natural endowment that can allow the soul to continue to grow. Is this a common feature of soul-type endowments, and my mecha endowment should be on the soul-type mecha? But this endowment is too strong and can connect to parallel worlds, also because soul-type divine mechas are too rare. When I first selected a divine mecha, none of them moved, and I could only force it to start by absorbing memory fragments. It seems that I have to forge Yan's physical transformation. At the very least, I have to see the complete characteristics of Yan's brain waves and what extent he can reach. With this in mind, Li Yi no longer held back and began to activate the 3.2 version of the burst skill and the 2.0 version of the brain super lifting technique. The 10-nanometer microscopic field of vision was also presented simultaneously. The deep and colorful prison suppression divine power gathered in his palm and blasted over with a higher frequency and more violent movement. The surging breath flowed in all directions with Li Yi's movements. Boom. These breaths even caused the malfunction of the special equipment in the training ground in the surrounding area, with crackling sounds and flashing arcs. Obviously, Li Yi was using the power of the Thunder God's body and the prison suppression divine power to strengthen his forging effect for the second time. The faces of several people changed slightly. Tan Yaozu and Xiao Pingchuan were surprised that Li Yi actually had some means, and his strength was much stronger than before. Lin Jianlong was surprised at the strong strength shown by Li Yi under the 3.2 burst skill. This strength is almost comparable to his normal strength, right? To this day, due to the significant enhancement of Li Yi's physical body and the large base number, the enhancement effect brought to the physical body by the 3.2 burst skill is no longer as good as the previous enhancement when he was in the heavenly rank. But in terms of the total enhancement, it is still not cheap. Therefore, the speed and strength displayed by Li Yi at this moment are close to the strength represented by the 3 core strongest. As Li Yi stretched his state to the limit, the movement of the entire hibernation cabin became louder and louder. Even though Yan's body was held by Li Yi's divine hand and was not standing on any solid material, Li Yi also tried his best to infiltrate all his strength into Yan's body. But the recoil of Yan's body was still getting stronger and stronger. The air was full of sharp whistling. Whoosh! Hiss! Boom! The sound waves shocked people and could even have a strong interference and dizziness effect on the soul. The three of them retreated a certain distance. Gradually, time came to the 68th minute. Yan's body, as Li Yi superimposed the 6 bodybuilding methods, seemed to have reached a critical point in the continuous and slow strengthening. Suddenly, the snow-white eyelids under the thin eyelashes moved slightly. Chapter 430 Awakening. Everyone observed very carefully and could tell whether Yan's eyelids moved because she was shocked or moved naturally. Immediately, Tanyaozu shouted, "Wow, she moved a little." It was not Li Yi who asked her to move, but she moved on her own. Xiao Pingchuan nodded slightly. It was indeed moved on her own. Li Yi was speechless when he heard this. What do you mean she moved on her own? Always talking nonsense beside her is too disturbing. After thinking about it, Li Yi simply said, I have seen some possibilities of her recovery from the subtle feedback of Yan's soul and body, but that just now should be just a natural reaction of her nerves. It is not time for her to fully recover. Why don't you go and do your own things first, busy your own things? Xiao Pingchuan looked cold on the surface, but in fact he had a lot of inner drama. As the youngest of the old batch of powerful people, Xiao Pingchuan, second only to Zhang Shengfeng, was not as experienced as the others. So he immediately realized that he seemed to have said something inappropriate just now and became embarrassed. Tanyaozu squinted his eyes and smiled. Lin Jianlong patted Tanyaozu and pinched his fingers hard, causing the corners of Tanyaozu's mouth to twitch. In that case, let's leave this to Li Yi. Time waits for no one. The three of us will go to the next door and deduce the subsequent joint attack formation. Of course, the other two people had no other opinions at this moment. Moreover, although they still wanted to continue to watch Li Yi's operation and learn a little bit of the essence of the bodybuilding method. But they knew that the subtle level of skills could not be understood just by watching. It is better to focus on training and do what you can do. At this moment, the three left. Li Yi also became more focused. Yan's changes were very subtle and slow, but at this moment it had reached a critical point. The critical point of this step is the critical point where Yan can normally receive feedback from the physical body and continue to counterattack, or the critical point where the resurrection process is accelerated. Therefore, under his 10-nanometer microscopic perspective at this moment, a large number of changing details can be seen. Although it is slow, it is richer, and the details of each step are clearly visible. Li Yi not only consumed less brain power overall, but also was able to use some of his mind to summarize and decipher the special brain waves of Yan while deducing this method of body forging for soul-type physique. In a blink of an eye, 2 hours had passed again. At this moment, Li Yi had to stop temporarily because of the excessive physical strength consumed by the burst skills. Then he used the power equipment that came with the training ground to directly absorb electricity with the thunder forging method to restore the consumption of his body. As his thunder forging method became more and more sophisticated, his efficiency in using electricity to replenish consumption was much higher than drinking nutrient solution. However, he did not give up this recovery channel. While absorbing electricity to restore, he also used his authority to call an AI to provide nutrient solution. During the rest, he slowly deduced the details of the transformation. With his current brain power, it was very efficient to deduce these details of the transformation. It didn't take long for him to make a version with a small degree of transformation. And he took the time to forge it for himself. Not to mention, the effect is really good. Although only a very small part of Yan's transformation details were extracted, Li Yi clearly found that the enhancement effect of this wave of transformation on his body was better than all the previous bodybuilding methods. Snap! 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 After a series of self-forging, he squinted his eyes and carefully observed the changes in his body at the gene chain level, and his heart was shocked. He saw that deep in his gene chain, those parts that had not been irradiated and transformed by the divine gene seemed to be undergoing some strange flow. Some gaps in the depths of his gene chain seemed to be slowly filling. This process was not fast, but it was happening in a real way. These changes were explaining something very outrageous. That is, Li Yi's gene chain and Yan's gene chain are highly complementary. Otherwise, it would not be enough to explain that such a change would occur when a random transformation detail was replicated on himself. But why is my physique so complementary to Yan? Li Yi was really surprised. Is there really such a case of near-perfect fit in this world? No, That's not right. Perfect fit should be wrong. To put it in a more appropriate way, my own genes are perfectly compatible with Yan's genes. Yan's brainwave fluctuations are equivalent to a simplified subset of my brainwave fluctuations, and the same should be true for genes. Moreover, Yan's temperament gives me a sense of déjà vu. I seem to have seen someone with a similar temperament to her. Li Yu frowned and pondered. But the strange thing is that although he clearly felt that he had seen a temperament similar to Yan, he could not find the existence in his memory. This is very rare for him. With his special talent, it is impossible for him not to find anything he has seen. Even from the memories absorbed from the memory fragments, he can clearly know which ones are from the parallel world and which ones are his real experiences. On the one hand, this is a talent, and on the other hand, it is also due to the highly refined main consciousness of the technique of emptiness, which allows him to clearly judge the similarities and differences between himself and the absorbed memories. Forget it, let's do it again for Yan. Now she has rested well and her physical body has been strengthened again. Li Yu did not find a similar existence in his memory, so he simply stopped thinking about it. He approached Yan, and the invisible divine hand pinched the skin on the back of Yan's neck and lifted her up. However, before he made his move, he stopped. Because he found that Yan's soul seemed to have finally broken through a layer of boundaries and suddenly surged. The surging brain waves overflowed like an explosion. Li Yu hurriedly recorded it. At the same time, he looked up at Yan. Yan suddenly opened his eyes at this time. A pair of red pupils with a texture like rubies looked over with a bit of confusion when he just woke up. Li Yu blinked and suddenly found that he was pinching the back of Yan's neck with his divine hand, which seemed a bit rude. Hello, I'm Li Yi. I don't know if you have heard of my name. Li Yu didn't let go of the divine hand and just greeted him. The reason why he didn't let go was mainly because he took into account that Yan's physical body didn't seem to be fully under control yet. If he let go rashly, Yan would probably not be able to stand steadily. Yan shook his head. I don't seem to remember anything. Who am I? The voice was very cold, with a pleasant sound like the sound of a bell. Li Yu was stunned for a moment. Amnesia? Is there a flaw in the resurrection method? Or did my fortune bring some negative effects to her? I don't remember anything. Yeah, Li Yu thought for a while and asked, what can you think of now? Or, do you feel familiar with the starship or other things? Yan tilted his head and thought for a while, then said ignorantly, it seems that I don't feel anything, but you look very familiar and kind. Could it be that you are my father? Ah. Chapter 431 Amazing. Li Yu was shocked. Dad? You can't make such a joke. You are much older than me. He was about to deny it. Yan continued, am I wrong? Then you are my brother? But I feel you are more like my dad. Li Yu's heart moved, remembering that their genes and soul fluctuations are similar and complementary, and asked, then tell me, why do you feel this way? And not other characters? Such as friends? Or strangers, other characters? Yan frowned and thought for a while. But the first thing I thought of was this, well, actually in terms of age, you are at least 100 years older than me, is that so? Then I am actually your sister. Yan's eyes lit up and seemed very happy. Li Yu was embarrassed. Why can't he get around it after talking about it? Although the genes of the two are indeed very suspicious. Let's not talk about this. The person who was stimulating my genes and hitting me just now, wasn't it you? My brother. Yan smiled. Li Yu said, it's me. What's wrong? Can you give me a few more hits? I feel that with a few more hits, I might be able to break through. This time it was Li Yu's turn to have his eyes light up. He was almost confused by Yan's reaction just now, and ignored the continuous changes in Yan's body at this moment. Looking at Yan's state, her aura has clearly continued to rise since she woke up. Could it be that her previous state of suspected death was to risk her life and break through to the demigod level? Or did she already have this method, but she had to try it because she encountered an enemy? And his own bodybuilding method helped her transformation? Originally, if Li Yi and Yan's genes and brain waves were not so complementary, Yan would not be able to reach such a critical state so quickly. After all, Yan's own physical strength is much stronger than Li Yi. But now it is different. Because Li Yi is highly compatible with Yan's genes, even if his physical body is inferior and his strength is insufficient, the stimulation intensity required by Yan does not need to be too high. If Yan could transform into a demigod, Li Yu couldn't imagine how powerful the enhancement he could get from it. Li Yu immediately said, since you are almost at the critical point, I will forge you with all my strength again to help you transform again." As he said that, he directly activated the 3.2 version of the explosive skill, 2.0 brain super lifting technique. Boom! The amazing momentum burst out from him. The strong wind pressure was transmitted, and Yan couldn't help but narrow her eyes. "You have become stronger, of course, Sister Yan. I will go all out next time, don't resist, okay?" As the voice fell, Li Yu took a deep breath and activated the divinity of the prison, and the deep and colorful color covered his fist. 3 steps closer to Yan, squatted slightly, and raised his arm. Punch. Bang. 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 This time, Yan was still lifted up by Li Yu's divine hand from the back of her neck, and she didn't feel the state was strange at all. She calmed down and tried to bear the force to avoid a recoil of her body and Li Yi. Immediately, a series of subtle prison-suppressing divine powers with a precision of 10 nanometers were injected into Yan's body by Li Yi. This time, because there was no recoil force, the force injected into Yan's body was immediately a little stronger. Yan snorted lightly, and the blood in her body surged. She clearly felt that deep in her body, there seemed to be some mysterious energy blooming. Sublimation. 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 Li Yu's attack continued. Pa-pa-pa-pa. Yan, who had almost reached the critical point, suddenly emitted a brilliant divine light from her ruby-like pupils. Boom. Her breath also suddenly soared. An extremely amazing divine power continued to overflow as her breath sublimated. This divine will was completely different from the various sequences of divine will that Li Yi had seen before. This was a mysterious divine will that was deep, distant, and simple, as if it was born in the early days of the universe. This overflowing divine will soon alarmed Lin Jianlong and the other 2 who were deducing the combined attack system next door. The 3 of them were shocked and rushed over. "Yan has awakened." Tanyaozu was pleasantly surprised. "Yan is going to break through to the demigod." Lin Jianlong frowned slightly, and felt incredible in his heart. Although Tanyaozu and Xiao Pingchuan were shocked, they were not as shocked as Lin Jianlong. The more he understood the difficulty of being promoted to demigod, the more he felt how incredible it would be to happen next. Although Yan's strength has always been good, second only to him. But she should not have completely completed the time and space fusion of the 3 cores, right? Why is it so sudden? Could it be that Li Yi's bodybuilding method helped him? In an instant, a series of thoughts flashed through Lin Jianlong's mind. Even if Li Yi's bodybuilding method is amazing, it can help the peak of the heavenly position to be promoted to the strongest, and even help some of the strongest to go further. But in Lin Jianlong's opinion, it should stop here. After all, between the demigod and the strongest, there is a huge gap in the realm of God. The model of pure physical enhancement and then promoting soul enhancement should theoretically not help the strongest to transform into a demigod. In the meantime, Lin Jianlong and Qin Longchuan have been studying for a long time and have long understood that the biggest bottleneck in the middle comes from the time and space load and the fusion of the 3 strongest nuclei. This fusion is not a fusion in the physical sense. It is a fusion in the sense of time and space. Only in this way can you be promoted to a demigod. Even if Yan is in a desperate situation this time, she should still be some distance away from this time and space fusion. With a lot of questions in his mind, Lin Jianlong took the lead in entering the hibernation cabin. All he saw was that Li Yi was still forging the awakened Yan. And beside Yan, the extremely mysterious soul-like divine will, that is, the dark soul divine will, is like deep water, slowly flowing around Yan, forming a liquid ring. And this ring formed by the dark soul divine will directly capture the surrounding time and space structure, causing the scene in front of everyone to be greatly distorted. This distortion is not an ordinary visual distortion, but a real one, isolating her and Li Yi in another small space-time layer. This change is similar to Li Yi's air-suppressing membrane. It's just that this space-time layer formed by the spirit of the underworld is obviously stronger and covers a much larger area. This is a sign of resisting the load of space-time and becoming a demigod. Lin Jianlong stared and said, "It seems that Yan is really going to break through to the demigod level." Tanyaozu and Xiao Pingchuan realized that they were about to witness the promotion of the second demigod-level strong man in the human race. Although Qin Longchuan was promoted successfully, no one had seen it. No, Li Yi's bodybuilding method is too awesome, it can even help people break through the bottleneck of demigod. Tanyaozu was shocked, or is it that Yan transformed himself? The previous death was just a disparate operation, no matter what the reason was, he felt it was too outrageous. Director Lin, this is too magical. I wonder if I accidentally fell into some kind of illusion trap. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 432, Engraving. What do you mean by doubting that you are trapped in an illusion? Lin Jianlong patted Tan Yaozu on the shoulder. As a powerful person, don't always have wavering emotions, and have a solid understanding of your own judgment. Tan Yaozu was speechless. After a moment of silence, he thought to himself, Old Lin, it's a good thing that you don't have much contact with Li Yi, that you have this idea. When Li Yi does something big again, I wonder if you can continue to be so calm. On this side, Yan's transformation continued. The space occupied by the spirit of the underworld is getting larger and larger. Zizzy. Some of the instruments that maintain the normal operation of the hibernation capsule have short-circuited and twisted. Xiao Pingchuan asked, Chief, how about I move the people in these hibernation capsules? Lu Yancheng and Lu, as well as another ancient person, were still lying in the hibernation capsule here. Lin Jianlong nodded and said, move them away, but these three people can't be too far away from us. If anything happens to them, we can respond immediately. Xiao Pingchuan immediately took action, activated his gravity characteristics, and accurately controlled the three dormant capsules to eject. Lu Yancheng and the other two immediately rose up and floated. Xiao Pingchuan pointed his finger slightly, and the three of them automatically flew up and flew to the deduction room next door. This time, the three of them didn't dare to separate from Li Yi. After all, this time was a demigod promotion. Staying here was not only a witness and a reference for learning, but also to prevent the adverse effects of Yan's failure to promote. If the promotion failed, this space-time barrier formed by the spirit of the underworld will most likely go out of control. If it can't be controlled and forms a space-time shockwave like the last time in the God-suppressing prison, then basically this starship will be destroyed. No, it is directly annihilated. After all, this starship is not a special place like the God-suppressing prison that can suppress even demigods and quasi-gods. At best, it is just a human technological creation that uses a lot of time-space jump devices in the divine era. It has not yet reached a material level of the peak period of each ancient era. Time passed slowly. 1 hour later. At this moment, Li Yi has almost reached the limit, and Yan's transformation is still continuing. She has broken through the boundary between the strongest and the demigod, and completely fused the three strongest cores in her body into the same core in the sense of time and space. With the help of Li Yi, she completed this process much faster than ordinary people, and her body has also transformed more. But after fusing the strongest core into the only demigod core in time and space, in addition to the divine sequence represented by the strongest core itself and the strength cultivated by her, there is another thing that is crucial to determine how strong the demigod level is. That is, how many time and space imprints can be left on the demigod core. If you are not majoring in time and space abilities, you need to leave the concept imprint of your major. And what determines how many time and space and concept imprints can be left is the resistance to time and space load. There is no doubt that at the moment of promotion, with the help of the powerful time and space isolation force generated by the fusion of the three cores, it is the perfect time to leave the time and space imprint. Once this opportunity is missed, it will be extremely difficult to leave the time and space imprint on the semigod core again. Under the forging of Li Yi's prison-suppressing divinity, Yan also realized that the time and space isolation force he generated at this moment was much greater than expected. This is an opportunity that cannot be missed. However, Li Yi seemed to be running out of energy. Realizing this, Yan, who was in the process of transformation, opened his eyes, looked at Li Yi, and said, Dad, no, my brother, do you still have any energy left, Dad? Brother? What's the connection? The three faces below were full of question marks, their eyes widened, and their mouths open wide. They had to admit that this would be the most shocking sentence they had heard in the past few days. In such a short period of time, what happened between these two people? Tan Yaozu looked at Lin Jianlong's surprised expression, and after the shock in his heart dissipated, he was secretly proud. He thought to himself, look, Lao Lin, you are still too young. Although you are stronger and more powerful than me, and more stable than me, but at this moment, you just can't do it." Li Yi ignored the shocked eyes of the crowd, and continued to forge while responding, "Basically there is not much left. What's the matter? I can feel that you are carefully scanning my body and observing my transformation very carefully. It seems that this is very helpful to you. But next, if you can hold on for a few more minutes, my transformation may bring you more benefits." Although Yan lost his memory, his basic logical ability was not lost. Based on his insight into Li Yi's thoughts, he accurately put forward his own needs. Li Yi was speechless. There was still transformation. However, this was also a happy trouble. The various transformation details obtained from Yan were undoubtedly much more helpful to him than those of everyone before. In this case, he would grit his teeth and hold on. He took a deep breath and began to activate his 3.3 version of the burst skill that he had kept and rarely used. This version of the burst skill included all the characteristics except the special characteristics, and it was his strongest burst skill so far. However, this version of the explosive skill involved too many characteristics, so it took the most effort and consumption. Therefore, it was also the one with the shortest overall endurance, and he only used it a few times in battle. But since Yan still needed a few more minutes, he might as well squeeze himself out. Boom! With the activation of a large number of characteristics, his extremely strong body also instantly generated a lot of heat and transmitted it to the surroundings. His eyes shot out amazing divine light. One punch, another punch, directly hit Yan's body. This slender and graceful body, after enduring Li Yi's wave of over-limit punches, was unable to withstand the fierce changes deep inside the body for a while and trembled. But Yan was not afraid at all. Instead his eyes lit up. Yes, it was this kind of punching power. The surrounding space-time barrier expanded visibly. Yan quickly mobilized all his space-time knowledge to leave space-time imprints as deeply as possible on the semi-gut core. Seeing this scene, Lin Jianlong's pupils shrank slightly. Li Yi could actually do this. The power of time and space isolation is too strong. In a blink of an eye, 3 minutes passed. Li Yi was completely exhausted and stopped, standing there gasping for breath. The time and space where the two were located were isolated, which was naturally very good for Yan. But it was not friendly to Li Yi. He was consuming so much now, and there was no free lightning to absorb around him. How could he replenish the consumption? Suddenly, Li Yi's heart moved slightly. Hey, I can use the thunder forging method to absorb free lightning into cells, so can I use skills such as the air suppressing membrane to absorb the power of time and space? Thinking about this possibility, suddenly, the time and space isolation power around him suddenly disappeared. An unprecedented strong breath burst out from inside and outside Yan's body. Everyone felt that their souls seemed to be pressed by something, like a heavy weight on their backs. Lin Jianlong's expression changed slightly, and he asked in surprise, Yan, how many time and space imprints have you left behind? Time and space imprints? Yan blinked, reached out to support Li Yi, who was a little exhausted, and looked at Lin Jianlong, who asked the question, you also have time and space imprints? No. Who are you and how did you appear here? Chapter 433 Intelligence. No, are you kidding? What are you kidding? Yan tilted his head and looked at Lin Jianlong, revealing a puzzled look. Lin Jianlong looked at Yan's expression and realized that Yan had lost his memory. A demigod who mainly cultivates the soul would actually lose his memory? What kind of hell joke is this? It seems that you really have lost your memory. Lin Jianlong frowned and said, Yan, with your control over the characteristics of the soul, you can't actually find your memory. Yan saw that Lin Jianlong's expression was not fake, and said thoughtfully, it seems that you know me, but why don't I feel familiar with you at all? Then I have to ask you, as a demigod who mainly cultivates the characteristics of the soul, you don't even know that your memory is missing. Lin Jianlong was speechless for once. He understood why Yan called Li Yi dad or brother. Most likely, it was the so-called familiarity in Yan's mouth. However, although everyone has not met many times, they have fought together and defeated alien enemies. Even if you have lost your memory, you have some impression, right? How come someone I haven't seen before can call me dad, but my old comrade is a stranger? Yan showed a bit of distress on his face. Alice, I also want to get my memory back. I thought that after being promoted to demigod, I should be able to get it back, right? But I still didn't see any useful memories just now, but I can think of only 2 people who can erase all my memories so accurately and leave only life experience. Lin Jianlong's face moved slightly. Who? Yourself? Yan nodded. Yes, one is myself, and the other should be a powerful existence deep in my subconscious. In the depths of your subconscious, there is a strong person? Did you express it wrong, or is there really such a powerful existence? The expression is correct. It is a truly powerful existence, Yan explained, a strong person who has trained himself into a conceptual body and can reside in the consciousness of others. Lin Jianlong frowned deeply. This sounds outrageous. A strong person can survive in the subconscious of others. If it is some kind of projection, some kind of thought stamp, some kind of thought, it can be understood. But the conceptual body, this kind of dreamlike technique, even a quasi-god may not be able to master it, right? Lin Jianlong said. Yan shook his head and said, I don't know about that, but it is undeniable that there is such a powerful existence in my mind. Lin Jianlong fell into thought. Yan had never told them about this before, but now it seems that perhaps Yan's young age can quickly climb to the top of the strongest, and even reach the current demigod level, which may also be related to this. In fact, Yan is 10 years younger than Zhang Shengfen. It's just that due to Yan's special nature, she had to hide before she became famous. So that humans only regarded Zhang Shengfeng as the strongest genius before. At this time, Li Yu's side was able to absorb free electricity to supplement consumption due to the dispersion of the space-time membrane. The nearby power equipment happened to be damaged due to Yan's space-time membrane, and electricity escaped. He quickly absorbed it and soon recovered part of his state. Hearing this, he asked curiously, So Sister Yan, does this have anything to do with you treating me as your father? Yan thought and said, It doesn't matter. I think you are like my father. It's a feeling from the heart. Well, then I think you should call me brother more intimately. The word brother sounds a bit uncomfortable to me. It's a bit exaggerated and doesn't match your demigod level personality. Is it exaggerated? I think it's okay. Tanyaozu felt very uncomfortable listening to the conversation between the two. Moreover, Yan's appearance always made Tanyaozu think of some bad images when she called the young Li Yunad. Could it be that the unique aura of the demigod level strong who majored in the soul can easily interfere with the souls of others? At this time, he saw the expression of Xiao Pingchuan next to him, who seemed to be slightly red. Tanyaozu's eyes lit up, and he patted Xiao Pingchuan on the shoulder and said with a smile, Old Xiao, why are you blushing just now? Xiao Pingchuan was startled, and quickly glanced at Tanyaozu, and said insincerely, No, old Tan, don't think too much. While everyone was talking, suddenly, a voice suddenly came through the floor where everyone was standing. It was a gloomy voice, saying in human language, Congratulations, it seems that you humans have given birth to a new demigod, and your strength has reached a new level. Congratulations. Everyone's face changed slightly. This voice came through the floor. Could it be that the Puang Supreme's Puang Quasi-God who is wandering outside the Wudao Divine Mountain for some reason? Lin Jianlong signaled to everyone with his eyes not to panic, and then said on the spot, So it is Quasi-God Pu Ying who has come to visit. I wonder what advice you have. Haha, I'm not near you, don't worry, and don't test me. Quasi-God Pu Ying continued to control the floor to make sound vibrations. Don't worry, I finally got out of the main body, and I will definitely not make too many enemies, so I won't attack you. You can rest assured in me. Also, I'll report 2 pieces of information to you by the way. First, the 3 branch-level powerhouses of the Star Clan have entered the ruins of time. It seems that they have a good chance. It is recommended that you act as soon as possible, otherwise when they get enough opportunities inside, even with the demigods, I'm afraid it may not be so easy to win. Second, Miss Yan, make good use of your abilities. Your characteristics are very rare even in our time. I'm afraid there will be more powerful beings to hunt you in the future. Remember to hide well. Here's a piece of advice. There are many time-related items in the ruins of time. They will be of great help to you. Go and become stronger. I hope you can advance to demigods as soon as possible. Otherwise, when the tide of revival comes, you won't even be cannon fodder. After saying that, the voice of Quasi-God Pu Ying stopped coming. Everyone looked at each other. What is the tide of revival? Is there a more powerful existence that will hunt Yan? Compared with these news, the intelligence of the 3-branch level of the Star Clan suddenly seemed insignificant. Li Yu was also slightly surprised. Hunting the holders of soul-type abilities? Wouldn't he be considered one too? It seems that he had hidden well before and had not activated the soul-type divine Mecha. However, His current strength is still too weak. If he could improve to the level of being able to beat the Supreme, why would he worry about these? The others also had their own worries. There was silence for a minute. Lin Jianlong coughed lightly and said, "Although the challenges we will face in the future will be more severe, we are not without good bargaining chips, so there is no need to panic. Also, Yan, you have now been promoted to demigod. Can you please wake up the 3 people in the hibernation capsule just now?" The 3 people were Lu Yansheng, Lu, and another ancient human. Yan looked at the deduction room next door, observed for a moment, and nodded. "It can be done," Li Yu said. "Then you guys go ahead. I need to retreat for a while and sort out what I have just gained." He couldn't wait to become stronger. Chapter 434, Expose. Li Yu went into seclusion, and naturally, the others had no objection. Yan said, "Dad, brother, you go into seclusion. If you need anything from me, just let me know." The others were sweating. Why did Yan always like to call Li Yu Dad? Is this feeling really that strong? Li Yu laughed and did not bring up the topic. He asked, "Sister Yan, how long do you think it takes to wake up a person?" Yan thought for a moment and replied, "About half an hour to an hour." Li Yu nodded slightly and said, "Then wake up that woman last. I'll come over to see how she is doing later. I just have some questions to ask her." Woman. Yan's eyes moved slightly, and she looked at Li Yu with a little surprise. Li Yu said, "Yes, this person is suspected to be related to some ancient figures. I need to confirm the information with her." "Just confirm this." "Yes, what?" "Oh." Yan retracted his gaze and said in a light voice, "Nothing. Since it is my good brother's request, I will do as you say." Li Yu nodded and turned to leave. "Wow, I'll also go into seclusion. I can't just watch you make rapid progress," Tan Yaozu shouted and followed. Lu Yansheng felt as if he had been dreaming for a very long time. In the dream, he wandered in the boundless void without any material. After wandering for a long time, he vaguely saw the majestic figures of some powerful beings in the distance. Each one was as tall and majestic as a planet, with boundless power, eternal and frightening. Looking at these great beings, he was lost, gradually sank, and lost his will. Until, a distant call like a mother hooked his soul that was about to dissipate and slowly returned. Weakly opening his eyes, he saw Lin Jianlong and another beautiful face that he had seen before but was not familiar with. In a trance, he understood something. "I'm in the same situation as Lao Zhang, sealed." Lin Jianlong smiled. "You're lucky. Li Yu, Tan Yaozu and He Guangzi saved you. If it weren't for them, you would have been sleeping in the Wushan maze forever." Lu Yansheng grinned. "That's really lucky. I met a reliable teammate. In addition, you have to thank Yan. Without her, even if your body came back, your soul couldn't come back, and I don't know which world you would be lost in." Yan smiled. "No need to thank her. Let's continue to wake up these people. Besides me, who else was hit?" Lu Yansheng was stunned. Lin Jianlong said, "Only you." Lu Yansheng immediately felt ashamed. "Listen, they both entered the Guotao Divine Mountain, but only he was hit by the mute area. How embarrassing. Although this thing has an element of luck, being hit is being hit, there is no way to wash it." "Who are the remaining few people to be awakened?" "Old Zhang," Lin Jianlong said. "Old Zhang needs to wait a little longer. His situation is a bit complicated. You also know that he was frozen together with a clone of the ancestor of the Star Clan. He cannot be thought rashly. It is best to wait until you recover, and we are at our best strength before awakening him." Although there are 2 top masters, Lin Jianlong and Yan, it doesn't matter if Lu Yansheng is there or not. But no one is sure what will happen after thawing Zhang Shengfen. Lu Yansheng nodded. While absorbing free energy, he opened the nutrient solution brought by AI and drank it frantically to speed up recovery. Next to him, Yan began to activate the soul characteristics and tried to awaken the ancients outside of Lu. Li Yu, on his side, was consuming a lot of brain power, quickly sorting out the details obtained from Yan's transformation. Moreover, he fell asleep every 20 minutes, entered the dream plane to absorb memory fragments, and used this to accelerate the perfection of the details of this dark soul body forging method. It will arrive at the ruins of time in about 6.5 days. In order to deal with the enemy in the strongest state, it is still necessary to strengthen every bit of power in his hands as much as possible. In the blink of an eye, 3 hours passed. Strange, didn't Yan say that it would take half an hour to an hour to wake someone up? Why hasn't it been done for so long? Li Yu, who was immersed in a huge amount of information, suddenly woke up. This time seemed a little wrong. He gained a lot in these 3 hours. At least he improved the first version he made in a hurry, and gave himself a little body training. Although the time is limited, it is still increasing. And as his soul surplus continued to be pulled back, a new divine gene was finally generated. This one belongs to the Vulcan sequence, which is the characteristic of Fen. Compared with his current total divine gene of about 4.5 cores, this one is nothing. But including this one, his Vulcan sequence is almost up to 0.5 cores, that is, 13. The others that have been put together into complete core are 2-core Thunder God sequence, 1-core Immortality sequence, and the remaining 1.5 cores are all kinds of miscellaneous. Unfortunately, the growth rate of the divine gene is still too slow compared to the soul and the body. Next time I have a chance, I should challenge other areas of Guotao Mountain and make use of the divine initiation. While reviewing the situation, he floated up and flew towards the direction of the hibernation capsule. While flying, he used the vibrations from the surroundings to confirm the status of several people. Well, Brother Lu has woken up and is in good condition. It seems that there is no problem. The extra breath should be Lu and the other ancient man. Li Yu quickly arrived at the hibernation capsule. When he saw the scene in front of him, he was stunned. What a coincidence, Lu has just been awakened. Strange, these two people don't seem to be strong. Is it because they have been sleeping for too long that their strength has not recovered? Or do they have no amazing strength? This suspected second version of Lu is slowly sitting up from the hibernation capsule, looking at the few people with a surprised face. On the contrary, the other male ancient man seems to have not woken up from the confused state of sleep, and his eyes are still in a wandering state. Logically speaking, this ancient man should have awakened earlier than Lu. The opposite result was what made Li Yi feel strange. Human, Lu said at this time. She did not speak the language commonly used by humans, but the language of the first era. After deciphering the languages of the several eras of divinity, the few people naturally learned them. All three of them understood. Li Yi immediately responded with the language of the first era. From your tone, you don't seem to think you are human. Among the three, Li Yi is naturally the strongest in terms of familiarity and mastery of the language of the first era. Moreover, he also has a lot of questions to ask, so he simply took the lead and communicated directly. Lu heard this and smiled slightly. Of course I am not a human. I am a noble primitive saint. Chapter 435 Holy Ancestor. Original Saint Clan. Li Yi and Lin Jianlong looked at each other and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. Neither of them had heard of this term. Based on their understanding of aliens, they had not heard of this race name. Yan seemed to be slightly touched, and his eyes were dazed for a moment. Li Yi noticed Yan's eyes at this moment, and his heart moved slightly. It's a bit interesting. Li Yi said, Original Saint Clan, I haven't heard of it. Which era does this race belong to? Lu shook her head gently. You don't even know this. It seems that your generation's understanding of time and fate is still very superficial. This tone is quite arrogant. Lin Jianlong sneered in his heart. However, he did not speak, but let Li Yi control the rhythm of communication. At present, Lu's recovery strength is not strong, and Lin Jianlong is confident that he can suppress these ancient people. Li Yi smiled and said, You seem to be very proud of your identity, but I don't understand. Looking at your clothes and your appearance, as well as your body, it is clearly the style of our ancient humans. This makes me wonder, since you look down on us humans, why do you exist as a human? The faint smile on Lu's face faded slightly. It's very simple, because my body was given by the Holy Ancestor. The blood flowing in it is the blood of the original Holy Clan. The external form is just an appearance. Holy Ancestor, inexplicably, Li Yi thought of the Calabash Man. If this Lu is really the copy of Lu exiled by the Calabash Man, then the role of the Holy Ancestor may be a good match. Is your Saint Ancestor a powerful being who has lived for countless long years? Hearing this, Lu smiled proudly. You have good eyesight. The Saint Ancestor has indeed lived from the ancient times to the present, and will continue to live. Li Yi smiled and continued, Your Saint Ancestor is indeed a very powerful being, but I have a doubt. This powerful being has not visited the earth for a long time, right? Have you been exiled by your Saint Ancestor a long time ago? You are talking nonsense. Lu's expression, which had been very calm from beginning to end, finally showed some obvious movement. No, it can even be said that her defense was broken. She was so angry that her shoulders trembled, pointing at Li Yi and shouting, You are just an inferior human? What qualifications do you have to talk about the secrets of the noble primitive Saint clan? Li Yu shook his head in his heart. It seems that this Lu is basically the Lu that the gourd man copied from the floating corpse in space. However, Li Yu was a little disappointed with the character of this Lu. He thought that after this Lu was exiled to the earth, she would have a very friendly feeling towards humans in her human body. But now it seems that this Lu is probably just a low-quality person created by the gourd man. The gourd man wanted to exile this Lu, of course, for the sake of experiment, but it is also possible that he found that this Lu was not worth cultivating during the long-term interaction. Although Li Yi has never seen the gourd man, he still has a judgment based on the various materials he has seen before and the brief contact with a projection. Compared with Li Lulu he met before, the two are too different. It seems that Li Lulu is the best version created by the gourd man. Even if she is not the best, she is a very good type. Li Yi estimated that the birth of Li Lulu may also be partly the result of natural generation. In theory, she should be the descendant of the Lu in front of him, or the genetic descendant. And the granddaughter of Lao Zhang before, Lu, is one of the versions. Thinking of this, Li Yi smiled and said, "Then I have to ask, what is the difference between what you call the upper and lower classes? Is it just that you have some of the genes inherited from your so-called holy ancestors, or do you have something else that makes you noble?" Lu straightened his chest and said proudly, "Of course, I have lived for 10,000 years before I started practicing. Every time I advance, my lifespan increases greatly. Now I can live for at least 100,000 years. If you humans don't practice, you can only live for 100 years. How can you compare with me, live for 10,000 years?" Li Yi and Lin Jianlong were both shocked. Is this the strength of the gourd man's genes? Li Yi himself also has a core of the immortal divine gene, and his vitality is very surging. But he has never estimated how long he can live. Hearing Lu say this at this moment, he couldn't help but feel suspicious. Could it be that his lifespan has also increased to a level that ordinary humans can't reach? However, this guy is really bold. A race that can live so long dares to casually reveal such a secret in a weak situation. Isn't she afraid of being in prison for genetic research? Lin Jianlong couldn't help but say, "Are you serious? Is your lifespan really that long?" Lu smiled faintly and said, "I am willing to reveal this secret only because you are my savior. If it were someone else, I would naturally not tell others how long I can live. Although your race is lowly, don't get me wrong, I don't look down on you. I just need to maintain the dignity and respect of the original saint ancestor. After all, you have broken through the restrictions of your race with your own strength and have become the strongest in demigod level with a lifespan of thousands of years. For the strong, I still respect them." Li Yi was speechless. Well, he admitted that he had misjudged her. Before, he thought Lu was just a bad character, but now it seems that this guy is just a classic saint supremacist. She treats everyone in the Saint clan equally, and outside the Saint clan, she only respects the strong. Lu continued to smile faintly. "Besides, I might as well tell you that our original saint race is the only race that does not need to worry about the disaster of the era since the birth of the universe. You are my savior after all. I will certainly not treat you unfairly. If you want to avoid the disaster, I can also prepare 1 or 2 quotas for you to become vassals of the original saint race. You only need to become a bloodline vassal, and once the disaster comes, you will have a high probability of survival. You can consider it the only race that does not need to worry about the disaster of the era." This sounds even more arrogant. Several people suspected that Lu was talking nonsense and fooling them. However, Li Yi did not know much about Lu's brainwave structure, so he had not yet completely deciphered the other person's thoughts. After a careful scan of this guy's body structure, it was indeed very different from that of humans. It can be seen that she did not lie in one point, she was indeed just a human in a skin. The essence is indeed another race. Therefore, Li Yi has not been able to confirm whether this guy is lying or half true and half false. Li Yi and Lin Jianlong exchanged glances. Then, Li Yi coughed and said, "Sir, you said that your Saint clan does not need to worry about this so-called epical disaster. Then, may I ask, why do you not need to worry? What means did you use to avoid it successfully?" Lu Wei smiled slightly. "Well, it depends on your sincerity." Chapter 436 Interrogation. "She's lying." Yan quietly sent a voice message to Li Yi. Li Yi's heart moved. He hadn't figured out Lu's unique brain waves yet. Could it be that Yan used his soul skills to find out the problem? The soul sent a voice message and asked, "Sister Yan, how do you think so?" Yan sent a voice message and said, "It's very simple. I am proficient in the characteristics of the soul. After being promoted to demigod, I can see through all the tiny fluctuations at the bottom of the soul. Although this woman's soul is not weak in essence, it is still much weaker than me." Li Yi understood. "Can you confirm which sentence this guy lied about?" "There's nothing I can do about it for now." Yan curled her lips and sent a voice message back. "After all, she is not too weak. I can only judge that there are lies in what she said just now. I guess what she said is mostly half true and half false. Sister Yan, since you can see the fluctuations at the bottom of the other person's soul, can you send me the specific time when you judged that the other person was lying, and the soul profile that saw through the problem with the other person's expression, all in coded form?" Li Yi made a request. The so-called coding is the information coding that their mecha masters must learn. It has a fast transmission efficiency and is suitable for the rapid exchange of information among the strong men like them. As the top strong man of mankind, Yan naturally knows this. However, this thing is not simple. The soul profile inside may involve some of her secrets. If it were someone else, Yan would certainly not agree. But the one in front of her was Li Yi, so she naturally did not hesitate and replied directly, "Of course, I will send it to you now." Wait a moment. After a while, Li Yi's soul quickly received a batch of information coding. With the help of this information, there is enough grasp to decipher Lu's brain waves. Received. Very comprehensive. Thank you, Sister Yan. Good brother, there is no need to say this and that between you and me. Li Yi, well, the good brother has come out. He turned to look at Lu and said calmly, "Your Excellency, it's not right to ask us if we are sincere. You keep saying thank you for saving our lives, but in the end you still need us to show you something. Isn't this a loss of dignity for your so-called primitive saints? Why, do you think we are worthless because we can only live for 100 years, or is it that the so-called primitive saints are not afraid of the epic disaster, but are just a bargaining chip for you to scare us? This noble primitive saint, we don't have time to waste with you. If you are sincere in cooperating with us humans, then we can still talk, but if you are not sincere, we don't mind sealing you forever, or even letting your soul perish and your body disappear. Your saint ancestor may be a very powerful person, but I can be sure that if you die here, he will never retaliate against us for you." The reason why he talked slowly with Lu before was because Li Yi had not yet cracked Lu's brain waves. But now that Yan has confirmed that there are lies in what Lu said, he also needs to stimulate the other party to speed up the decryption efficiency. Then he would naturally not treat Lu well again. At least he had to make the other party understand that the current situation was that she was dependent on others, not that they needed her. Even if Lu really had the so-called vassal quota to enable humans to successfully avoid the so-called epical disaster, it would probably not be so easy to do. How could a special gene successfully avoid the disaster that countless supreme-level strongmen could not deal with? Is it really that simple? Would she easily bring it up for negotiation? Although Li Yi had a sister Li Lulu, he did not mean that he would love her and be more friendly to this ancient version of Lu. As he said to Lu, the guard man had long exiled her, and the possibility of revenge for Li Yi and others for her was also very low. Li Yi's remarks were somewhat unexpected by several people. Yan's eyes lit up, and he was secretly happy in his heart. He had long been unhappy with this arrogant woman. Lin Jianlong nodded slightly, secretly praising Li Yi's negotiation style, which was very much to his liking. Like before, he asked questions slowly and was pushed by the person he rescued. He also didn't like it. Lu narrowed her eyes and said coldly, "I respect you as a strong person and you saved my life, so I am willing to tell you such secret information. Do you know how much risk I took to tell you this news? Do you know how many supreme-level strong people are eager to know the news of avoiding the disaster of the era?" Li Yi shook his head in his heart. This woman is eloquent. However, thanks to the information sent by Yan, he has basically deciphered part of Lu's brain waves. Moreover, as the other party's emotional fluctuations become greater, Li Yi's efficiency in deciphering more information is also higher. However, these few short sentences are obviously not enough. It's not enough. At that moment, Li Yi smiled and praised, "I underestimated you. You did a good job of putting on the hat. It's a pity that you didn't scare us by mentioning the original saints and disasters. From the fact that you avoided talking about the key questions I just raised, it is obvious that what you told us before was indeed false news. Don't say any more sophistry, it's all the same old nonsense. Your idea is actually very simple. After being released from the seal, You found that the people who rescued you were actually a group of strangers, and we strangers, each of us has a strong aura and a strong body. You will soon see that you can't afford to mess with us now, because of some instincts brought to you by the depths of your genes. You hate us humans very much. Let me guess, the original saints do have a way to avoid disasters, but you don't have such means. You are also worried about the disaster 1,000 years later. Even this awakening is very unfavorable to you, and it's even unplanned, so you say it's a life-saving grace, but you don't have the slightest gratitude towards us, because essentially, you think that our action has harmed you. You have to find the saint ancestor who once exiled you again, so you need some tokens of allegiance to make your action more feasible. That's why you deliberately leaked the information about your lifespan, in order to gain our trust and use us, right? Liu used his proficient level, or even nearly perfect level, interrogation methods. While using the microelectric characteristics to judge Lu's brain waves, he adjusted his language to confirm the other party's situation. After saying this, not to mention Lu, even Lin Jianlong felt goosebumps. He had heard that Li Yi's interrogation methods were very powerful, and could make the prisoner tell the other party's secrets without saying a word. Before, Lin Jianlong thought it was just an exaggeration. But now he didn't expect that this was actually true. Looking at Lu's expression, Li Yi's words were obviously 99% right. Lin Jianlong couldn't help but look forward to it, wanting to see how this so-called arrogant primitive saint would respond. Chapter 437 Time Control. What Lin Jianlong didn't expect was that Lu was silent at this moment. She seemed to have noticed that Li Yi was trying to get her thoughts through some means. Yan also looked at Lu in surprise, and sent a voice transmission to Li Yi. It seems that she has noticed your method and has sealed up her soul and brain activities. Li Yi sent a voice transmission back. It's okay, the information I want has been almost deciphered. Although there are some omissions, it's a pity, but there is a long way to go, and she will always reveal flaws in the next period of time. So fast? Yan was surprised. Good brother, how can you be so fast? Even she has the ability to read the inner thoughts of humans through the soul, but it is more difficult to read a strong person like Lu with a strong soul. It takes a lot of time and careful preparation to complete it. Li Yi smiled and responded, I have always been very fast in doing things, although the deciphering skill is not a key skill for him to improve. Over time, there is a tendency to break through to perfection. I believe that as long as there is an opportunity, it will be able to break through. He is also a little curious about what kind of effect will be presented after the deciphering skill reaches perfection. Above the perfection of fighting skills is the power of flowing water, and the subtlety, and finally the divine will. Each state in between has helped him a lot in previous battles. Divine control is currently at the perfection level, not yet at the level of refining the spirit, but he has seen what the refining spirit realm is like, and when he has time in the future, he can focus on improving it. Since Li Yi has already deciphered a lot of information in Lu's mind, there is no need to drag it out at this moment. He simply said, Sir, I can see that you have another idea, that is, if we can't be used by you, and you can't control us for the time being, you only have one last strategy left, which is to provoke us and let us seal you again. In this way, your life is extremely short, and the damage caused by the disaster to you will be weakened, right? Although you will also lose a lot of life, this is undoubtedly a more appropriate solution compared to this loss, because you can live to the next year and start over with your long life, and we must have been wiped out by the disaster. It's a pity that I won't do what you want. Hearing this, Lu's face changed slightly. Li Yi didn't give Lu room to react. He stretched out his hand, and the ice god sequence divine will, mixed with a prison suppression divine nature, suddenly burst out. Whoosh! A line of snow white was mixed in the deep and colorful, and it twisted Lu like a snake and bound her tightly. Lu's graceful body, the snow white palace dress tightly attached to her skin, showing a convex outline. Outside of Lu's body, the suppressing space membrane slowly appeared, wrapping Lu in a circle. I will freeze the space and time outside your body, making your life pass faster. I will also suppress your divinity and body, making it impossible for you to use your power. You will be trapped in a lonely prison forever in the future. This is my punishment for you, punishing your arrogance and your ambition to use your savior. At first, when the rope formed by the suppressing prison divinity and the ice god's will bound Lu, she realized that her divinity was suppressed and her body was under 100 times the gravity. Although her eyes were shocked, she was not panicked. When the suppressing space membrane appeared, isolating the space and time outside her body, She was in a new space-time sandwich and felt the accelerated loss of vitality. She was shocked. She opened her mouth to speak, but found that even her mouth was blocked by the ice god's will. Woo, woo, his eyes became more and more terrified. Creating a space-time sandwich with bare hands is a method that most demigods cannot do. This Liu cannot only create a space-time sandwich with bare hands, but also control the rapid flow of this space-time. She had never heard of such a method. If this method continues, when the disaster comes, will her lifespan last? This is much more uncomfortable than being suppressed by divinity and flesh. As a half-bucket of water in the primitive Saint clan, she is most proud of her lifespan. But when her lifespan cannot be controlled by herself, how much more fear does she feel than when a mortal faces death? Lin Jianlong looked at Liu with a slightly strange look in his eyes. He had heard Qin Longquan talk about Liu's high degree of control over time and space before. But he didn't expect that the method Liu showed now seemed to be much stronger than before. I haven't heard that Liu's method of isolating time and space can control the flow of time and space before. Isn't this a more advanced skill direction? Even he mastered it after practicing the characteristics of the universe light to a very deep level. Liu, did you comprehend this time-controlling skill yourself? Lin Jianlong couldn't help asking. Although he wanted to maintain the top combat power of mankind, he couldn't care about it at this moment. Liu nodded and said, I have made some progress a few days ago. In the previous month of cultivation and training, his focus was on absorbing space-time memory fragments, strengthening his soul, absorbing and strengthening space-time skills, and perfecting his body training method. However, this did not allow him to quickly master the control of the flow of time. It was after his brain power breakthrough that he burst into inspiration and his brain power was enhanced, which allowed him to perfect several space-time skills. One of them is to accelerate the flow of time on the space-time interlayer formed by the air suppression membrane. The principle of this skill is not complicated. As long as the internal space-time structure is controlled and the changes are accelerated, the effect of accelerating the flow of time will naturally be formed. This is similar to the principle that the rate of material change was lowered, resulting in little change in all things, which he had seen in the Xianshu ruins before. However, although the principle is simple, the operation is very difficult. He can only complete time acceleration in a small area with a diameter of 2 or 3 meters. And at present, he can only complete time acceleration. Slowing down time or even reversing it requires higher consumption. Because speeding up is going with the flow, slowing down is going against the flow, and reversing is undoubtedly a godlike operation, so it is naturally more difficult. He can only further improve this skill when his divine reserves increase, or when his present suppressing divinity increases, or when his understanding of time and space increases, or when his brain power increases. However, even if it is just speeding up time, it is enough to shock Lin Jianlong. You kid, everyone says that you are different every day. I didn't believe it before, and I just thought that you haven't reached a bottleneck yet. Lin Jianlong shook his head helplessly. Now it seems that you haven't reached a bottleneck yet, but you may really not have a bottleneck. Liu smiled and said, Director Lin said that this is exaggerated. How could I not have a bottleneck? I just broke through the bottleneck faster. Lin Jianlong was speechless. A bottleneck that breaks through quickly, can it still be called a bottleneck? So, you are planning to seal this ancient man forever? How long can you keep the space-time layer? He looked at Yan and said, Yan, you haven't answered me before. How many marks do you have? This is related to our arrangements in the ruins of time, so we can't be careless. Chapter 438 Plan. Time and Space Imprint. Yan pondered for a moment and said, I left 3 marks. What about you? You look like a demigod, too. Lin Jianlong is also a demigod? Liu's eyes moved slightly. I didn't expect that he had been promoted a long time ago, but concealed it for some reason. Or was he promoted recently? Lin Jianlong laughed and said, I'm not. Don't talk nonsense. I'm only half a step to demigod at most. Half a step to demigod. Yan looked at Lin Jianlong suspiciously. Is there such a level? Yes, of course, Lin Jianlong said with a smile. Then how do you know that demigods have time and space imprints? We humans also have demigods. You knew Qin Longquan before. Of course, you may not recognize him now, but it doesn't matter. He was promoted to demigod a month ago. I have communicated with him and know a lot about him. Liu was speechless. He knew that this was Lin Jianlong's perfunctory words. Half a step to demigod, half a step? Could this guy have been promoted to demigod a long time ago, but he was just pretending? Considering that they were comrades, Li Yi did not try to decipher Lin Jianlong's brain waves. But Li Yi estimated that this guy probably had a lot of hidden strength. Lin Jianlong continued to speak, praising 3 marks of time and space imprinting. It's amazing. I heard that when Lao Qin was promoted, he only had 1 more mark of time and space imprinting. This time you should have leaped to become the strongest of our human race, let alone, the previous hunt order issued by the aliens against you will become a piece of waste paper. With your power as a 3-mark demigod, I can't think of how many of the top aliens can deal with you at present. Now that you are a 3-mark demigod, the situation will be safer when we go to the ruins of time this time. As long as it's not a quasi-god who makes a move, we can just push it. Li Yi's eyes lit up. 3 marks are considered top demigods. That's not the case. A demigod must have at least 6 marks imprintings to be promoted to a quasi-god. Lin Jianlong explained, a quasi-god perfects the time and space imprinting to form a time and space divine pattern. A demigod is an imprint, and a quasi-god is a divine pattern. You can simply understand that 1 mark is a stroke of a time and space divine pattern, so it usually takes 6 marks to form a relatively complete space-time divine pattern. Of course, there are also clever combinations that can form space-time divine patterns with 3 or 4 marks, but such cases are very rare. It takes incredible luck to have one, because in the realm of God, although they are all the root of the universe, due to the different understandings of each person, each imprint of space-time is different, and it can even be said that they vary greatly, but only by forming enough space-time divine patterns, or conceptual divine patterns, can one reach the realm of true God and control the birth and death of the entire universe with one thought. Hearing this, Li Yi's heart moved slightly, and said, the realm of true God is the ultimate realm of the universe. Above this, there is no realm. Lin Jianlong shrugged and said, according to my experience of wandering in many ruins, the true God is indeed the ultimate realm. Maybe there may be, but from the era of divinity to the present, even the true God may not have been born, let alone above the true God. It is even a question whether there is such a realm as the true God. After all, over the years, many master-level masters who are revered as the strongest and most supreme have not yet been able to reach this legendary ultimate realm. Li Yi understood. In any case, 3-mark demigods are rare enough in our current era. Except for those top masters who have revived, there is no need to worry about others. And as far as I know, the strongest masters who can come out and move around are at the level of Puang Quasi-God. This sentence was added by Lin Jianlong using soul transmission to Li Yi. After the voice transmission, he asked again, so, how long do you plan to seal this woman? Can your hand really last for a long time? Li Yi said, for now, it is no problem to let the space-time layer exist on its own for more than half a year. During this period, if my skills have not improved, I will take some time to strengthen it. If there is improvement, then it can naturally be extended for a longer time at one time. Lin Jianlong smiled and said, with your state without bottlenecks, it is a small problem. Director Lin is joking. What I have always emphasized is that I don't have bottlenecks, I just break through faster. It's the same. Anyway, in my opinion, the bottleneck you can break through in those few days is not a bottleneck at all. Lin Jianlong said with a smile, you are quite modest, but there is no need. Being too modest is hypocritical. Li Yi was ashamed. In fact, he was telling the truth. After all, for him, it was very uncomfortable for some problems to be stuck for a few days. He simply changed the subject and said, speaking of which, Sister Yan, why hasn't the other ancient man returned to normal yet? I see that his eyes are still confused. Yan shook his head and said, I don't know, maybe he was in this state before he was sealed, at least his soul is complete now. Lin Jianlong pondered and said, the soul is complete, but it looks like this. Could it be that the soul that was awakened is another soul, a mismatched soul? Yan was startled, frowned, and said, it is possible that the soul and the body are not matched, but there is no problem with the recalled soul. Maybe there is a problem with this body. If it is a problem with the body, then let me take a look. Li Yi walked over and reached out to touch the body of the ancient man. When touching, the 10-nanometer precision subtle force was simultaneously activated. Buzz! Sensing the subtle force transmitted back from the ancient man's body, Li Yi's eyes moved slightly. I see. This man's brain seems to be able to function, but the functions within his brain have been out of integration for too long. They have long been acting on their own and no longer have the function of a brain organ. In other words, this brain cannot carry a soul. Most likely, his lifespan is far shorter than that of the original saints. Even with a seal inside the Wushan labyrinth to suppress the loss of vitality, the years are too long to resist. Lin Jianlong frowned. So what you mean is that this man is hopeless? No, there is still a way, Li Yu said. We can use cloning technology to clone a body for him. Although our technology cannot currently achieve this 100% match between soul and flesh, I will adjust his genes and body, which should bring him back to life, Lin Jianlong said. After the cloning is completed, his soul will also be exhausted. Right, Yan said. I can keep his soul for a while. Li Yu smiled and said, that's fine. I just carefully sensed this person's brain waves. He should be a pure human being, different from the primitive saint just now. Maybe he is worth saving. Even if he is an ungrateful person, we can use this to understand some ancient situations. Several people nodded. However, cloning takes a long time. Li Yu's next focus is to continue to improve his soul-body training method. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 439 Spiritual Refining. In a blink of an eye, the journey of the group came to the 7th day. The starship had long left the Stargate, deep into the Stardust Corridor, and flew towards the ruins of time at the end. Now, it only takes another half-day to reach the ruins of time. And Li Yu finally completed the initial stage of the soul transformation method on this day. Now, he was ready to strengthen his body. Since he knew that he would arrive at the ruins of time in half a day, he did not spend more time to adjust this bodybuilding method to perfection. Standing on the training ground, he stood alone, adjusting his breathing and state. I believe that even if this wave of physical bodies cannot reach the level of the 3 core strongest, it is not far away. No, considering the strength of the demigod transformation, there may even be some surprises, but after this body forging method, there will be much less room for my physical body to improve in a short period of time. Either I will be among the top 10 of the heavenly rank, to see if I can grow and understand something after the Star Clan War, so that I can add other body forging methods, or, it depends on whether this group of strong people can produce another demigod. Unfortunately, the most promising Chief Lin is probably also a demigod. Then, only President Duanmu is left. This soul-type body forging method, in addition to improving physical fitness, also has the effect of enhancing the soul. If it works, it will be a pleasant surprise. A series of thoughts flashed through his mind, and he adjusted his state, twisted his mind, formed a fist, and beat himself. Bang! 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 With a precision of 10 nanometers, he first forged tentatively. After noticing that the changes in his body were gradually getting on track, he gradually increased the strength of the forging and accelerated the speed. After the physical body began to transform in all directions, he directly launched the 3.2 explosion technique and the 2.0 brain super lifting technique. Boom! The amazing breath suddenly burst out. With his rapid self-forging, even if he took all the power into his body, the strong airflow generated by the rapid dancing of the divine hand was also very fast. The entire training ground was blown by his amazing airflow, generating extremely intense wind pressure. Not only that, the breath he breathed also contained extremely amazing power. It was like an amazing drum, causing a magnificent vibration. In an instant, this training ground, which was about the size of a football field, suddenly swayed like a big ship in a storm. Boom! 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 After all, this was a physical transformation achieved by the body forging method, and there were many more obvious physical changes than Yan's transformation at that time. It was equivalent to Li Yu using a powerful and subtle force to force the physical body to reorganize. Compared to Yan's gentle absorption at that time, the movement produced by Li Yu at this moment was much more violent. Soon, the powerful vibration of the training ground penetrated the balance device and reached the entire starship. Everyone on the starship noticed this change. Several people who were not far away from Li Yu were the first to be alarmed and flew over. What a strong airflow, what's going on? Xiao Pengchuan jumped up from the gravity training ground and said in surprise, could it be that someone from the True Saint Church has sneaked in? Tan Yaozu was also nearby. He immediately guessed that it was Li Yu's doing and couldn't help but cover his face and lamented, oh my god, no, Li Yu won't have another major breakthrough. Xiao Pengchuan said, Not really, he already made a lot of breakthroughs last time. These short 7 days are not enough time to accumulate his foundation. How could he have another major breakthrough? Tanyaozu glanced at Xiao Pengchuan and said, Old Xiao, since you don't believe it, how about we make a bet? Xiao Pengchuan shook his head and said, I won't bet. What's the point of betting for no reason? Shouldn't we be alert to enemy attacks right now? Besides, even if we bet, I have a higher chance of winning. You don't need to cause trouble for yourself. Tanyaozu smiled faintly and said, with this kind of commotion, we are a group of the strongest, and there is also a demigod here. Which person from the true Saint Church is so blind to come here? If it is a resurrector, it is possible. But we just left the Stargate and did not stop at any station along the way. Theoretically, it is impossible for an outsider to cause trouble here. I tell you, it can only be Li Yi, no one else can do it. I bet you 10 working hours. When the war is over, you go to the Tan family to give a class and tell me how you, the strongest person of the Gravity God sequence, train every day. How about it? Tanyaozu is as his name suggests. He has a traditional family education style. Under him, there are countless descendants. Among them, there is a younger generation who attracts his attention, who happens to have the gift of the Gravity God sequence. Xiao Pengchuan didn't want to make trouble, but seeing that Tanyaozu was so determined, he thought about it and said, okay, you also bet me 10 working hours. As for what to do, I will tell you after I have children in the future. Okay, Tanyaozu smiled. Little guy, in terms of understanding Li Yi, no one in the whole venue can compare to him. He had long noticed the unique breathing rhythm when Li Yi launched the explosive skills. Therefore, even though there were several walls with good sound insulation, he was still sure that the movement came from Li Yi. While the two were talking, they were not idle and quickly passed through the hatches. Click, click, click. Soon, the two arrived at the center of the vibration. As expected, they saw Li Yi who caused the huge movement in the training ground. When Xiao Pengchuan saw this scene, he was stunned immediately. Was it really the movement caused by Li Yi's breakthrough? You know, this training ground has been reinforced and has a balancing device inside. The breath changes caused by ordinary breakthroughs can be stabilized quickly. Tanyaozu looked at Xiao Pengchuan proudly and smiled. Don't be stunned, let's take action to stabilize the balancing device outside this training ground first. In order to avoid being overloaded by Li Yi's strong impact and breaking the balancer, Xiao Pengchuan could only nod. Old Tan, you are so good at predicting things. I admire you. It's true that old people are more experienced. I am not as good as you in judgment. Tanyaozu smiled and didn't explain in detail. You think I am so good at predicting things, but that doesn't matter. As long as I can make money, that's fine. The two of them attacked at the same time, activating their divinity, which extended over a large area and turned into a huge film, covering the entire training ground and resisting the terrifying airflow from Li Yi's breathing. These divinities were like elastic nets, which caught these airflows. However, it was not easy for the two of them to attack like this, and they frowned slightly. Good guy, Li Yi's breath is still so majestic. Even though we are dozens of meters apart, he can easily shake my divinity shield. It's really amazing. Tanyaozu smacked his lips and said, this guy's body will not become stronger and stronger as he practices, until one day he can enter the realm of God with his body alone. Right, this guess is really too shocking. It sounds unlikely that he can reach the semigod level and touch the realm of God before the divinity evolution system with pure physical strength. But looking at Li Yi's amazing transformation at this moment, it seems, this may not be impossible. Chapter 440 Training. At the same time when Tanyaozu and Xiao Pengchuan took action to stabilize the balancer, Lin Jianlong also rushed over. After the starship left the Stargate, he left the starship and drove the Xianzhou Mecha to the border star quickly. He quickly inspected it and rushed back, easily catching up with the starship at 0.1 light speed. Such an operation is currently the only one among humans who can complete it. Even the demigods Yan and Qin Longchuan do not have such ability at present. Before he arrived at the training ground, he directly turned on the monitoring AI and confirmed the situation. He felt relieved. But before he could relax, he felt tense again. No way, Li Yi broke through again? Although this is something worth celebrating, this frequency is so frequent that even though Lin Jianlong is used to joking with Li Yi about his bottleneck. But at this moment, he is still quite surprised. Good guy, this kid really has no bottleneck. Lin Jianlong gritted his teeth, and was really envious in his heart. Although he has made rapid progress, far surpassing all the powerful humans, and even mastered the cosmic light characteristic, which can be regarded as the first characteristic of humans, at this moment, he still felt a little sour in his heart. Alice, I still can't compare too much, otherwise my originally good mentality will be stunned. Wait a little while, I have to take it easy. I still have to maintain the appearance of the strongest human being, and I can't lose my dignity, otherwise, how can they remain in awe of other strong people above the strongest? Shaking his head and laughing at himself, Lin Jianlong activated the cosmic light characteristic, and with a flash, his body flashed from the hangar to the training ground. His flash was more comfortable than the flash skills of various human strongmen, and the coverage distance was much longer. When he came to the field, he found that the balancer was stabilized by Tan Yaozu and Xiao Pingchuan, who arrived first. Lin Jianlong was secretly surprised. Li Yi's breakthrough was so loud? Wouldn't he be close to reaching the top physical strength? Even better? Where is Yan? She cares about Li Yi so much, why didn't she show up? In the past few days, everyone has been busy with their own things, and they haven't paid much attention to the situation of others. At this moment, Yan is not here, and Lin Jianlong immediately becomes nervous. The last time Yan died inexplicably, he had to risk his life to survive. If Yan, who has been promoted to demigod, also encounters a similar situation, the situation may not be good. He mobilized the AI to search for various records in the starship. After looking for a while, his brows slightly frowned. Could it be that Yan, like himself, temporarily went out? Or is she practicing some secret method or skill, and even the AI monitoring can't detect her? After thinking for a while, Lin Jianlong asked, have you seen Yan? Tan Yaozu and the other man each had a tense face, while tightly maintaining the balancer. They were also bearing the amazing wind pressure generated by Li Yi's breakthrough. It was like the wind pressure repelling each other, gradually forming a powerful micro-force like a giant hurricane. Not only that, the wind also carried a subtle force that Li Yi subconsciously shot out, which was strong and tricky, tougher than alloy steel cables, and as strong as a Wanjin iron ship. Even the divine will they temporarily inspired could not easily defend against it. But the two of them had said such nice words before, and they were unwilling to lose face here at this moment. As both of them are the strongest, it is difficult to suppress the aftermath of Li Yi's breakthrough. How ugly it is to say it out. What's the matter? There are such wastes among the strongest. Although, there is also a reason why they need to take action to maintain the starship balancer. They need to defend a larger area. But the aftermath is always the aftermath. If it really can't be suppressed, it will be really embarrassing. With this idea in mind, the two have been secretly competing, holding their breath, and focusing on the spirit. Even when Lin Jianlong arrived, he didn't have time to say hello. They all stood like hanging pines, smiling, with their hands behind their backs, full of style. But they just kept silent. Lin Jianlong waited for a while but didn't get a reply. He thought the two didn't hear him, so he asked again, did you see Yan? The two still didn't answer, just kept silent. Lin Jianlong was speechless. What was wrong with these two people? He looked at them carefully. Only then did he see the clue. It turned out that the hands behind their backs were trembling slightly. It seemed that they were bearing the heavy burden of the circle of divine will outside. You two are really embarrassing the strongest, you can't even bear this aftermath. Lin Jianlong immediately saw the clue and scolded directly. It's okay if you can't bear it, but you just used such a stupid method. You put away your divine will, let me do it. He didn't care whether the two heard it or not, and immediately stimulated the divine nature of the universe light, which bloomed from outside his body like a huge flower. At the same time as this divine nature like a bright light was stimulated, it instantly deformed, forming a series of exquisite rainflower arrows, accurately flying towards the subtle force generated by Li Yi's inhalation and exhalation of air. Boom, boom, boom. Each arrow condensed from the divine power just collided with the overflowing strong subtle power and offset it perfectly. After the offset, only a slightly louder roar remained. Although the roar was loud, it did not have a strong resonance force, but it instantly eliminated the shocking turbulence in the training ground. Thousands of subtle powers flowed out, and continued to offset the countless arrows of the divine power of the universe. Lin Jianlong stood steadily and gave some pointers to Tan Yaozu and Xiao Pingchuan. It seems that you still lack the training of delicate control in your daily life. From your rough response, it can be seen that when you control the divine mecha, You must often rely on the performance of the mecha, and use great force to make miracles. This is not impossible in battle, but when it comes to personal training and daily habits, it is absolutely not allowed. Blindly using great force will prevent your divine control skills from breaking through to the perfect stage, or even the God-refining stage, the soul-endowing stage, and the divine will stage. Don't think that you can refine the divine will on a large scale after reaching the strongest level, but your divine control skills still have a lot of room for improvement. In the practice of the strongest, demigod, and even later levels, divine control is still the basic of the basics. Look at Li Yi, he has done a good job in this regard. It is undeniable that Li Yi is a genius, but his emphasis on basic skills is far above yours. You are the strongest after all, but you have to work so hard to deal with this aftermath, and you can't even speak in order to maintain your composure. How ironic is this? Do you think this is enough? Do you think you have reached the top? You can't even think about the level of demigod now. Tan Yaozu and Xiao Pingchuan both lowered their heads in shame. Lin Jianlong was furious. In the previous battles, he was either in a group with Qin Longquan and Duan Mushang, or fighting alone. He rarely paid attention to the fighting methods of the younger generation of the strongest, but instinctively felt that they should be good. The few times he watched, they were all the kind of big and open battles, so it was normal that there were few delicate operations. Now I realize that the few younger generations who used to be very strong are actually a little slack, and it can even be said that they are diligent in tactics but lazy in strategy. You two should reflect on yourself. Okay, boss, Xiao Pingchuan said. I understand, Chief Lin. If you think about it carefully, I haven't perfected my divine control for so many years. It is possible that I have been slacking off in the continuous training of this basic skill. Tan Yaozu shouted, stand at attention and take a beating. Reflect seriously. Although they are both powerful, Lin Jianlong's many years of achievements and accumulated prestige are not to be underestimated. Both of them are convinced. Lin Jianlong's expression eased slightly and nodded slightly. Make changes as soon as possible. After Li Yi's transformation, I think you will have no problem beating you two in the future. Although he just easily resolved the aftermath of Li Yi's breakthrough, the effort he made in the middle was not as easy as Tan Yaozu and the others saw. Chapter 441 Transformation. Li Yi is really good. I think he is almost as strong as I was 50 years ago. The more Lin Jianlong used the divine power of the universe to dissolve the aftermath of Li Yi's breakthrough, the more surprised he was. As Li Yi guessed, Lin Jianlong had already broken through to an extremely mysterious realm. Even the current semi-god Qin Longquan was no match for Lin Jianlong. Fortunately, Li Yi's amazing transformation seemed to have finally ended. The aftermath on the field slowly dissipated. The three of them looked intently and saw Li Yi slowly finishing his work. The amazing breathing also gradually disappeared. Instead, the pores of whose skin seemed to be slowly breathing in and out, absorbing free energy in a very subtle way. The free electricity from the outside world that he was absorbing at this moment was also saturated. Not only that, I don't know if it was the nether soul body forging method that broke a certain boundary of his physical body, or the result of the combination of multiple body forging methods. At this moment, he found that he could absorb free energy other than free electricity. Except for some special energy that he could not absorb, he could quickly absorb most common energy and store it in his cells, turning it into pure cell energy. In other words, he had basically completed the ship transformation at this moment. That is, he officially became a cosmic life and could survive freely in the universe. All kinds of dark energy and rays in the universe would no longer be a shackle or harm to him, and would become one of his aids. This was an unexpected surprise. It seems that when the body is tempered to the extreme, even if you don't deliberately use the special radiation of the super battleship to strengthen yourself, you can easily complete the ship transformation, Li Yi reviewed in his mind. In addition to this, he naturally had other gains. On the one hand, the strength of the body was improved. He stretched out his hand and pinched it, feeling it, and felt that he had reached the physical strength that was enough to beat 7 or 8 Zhaohe's. Basically, he should have touched the limit of the top and strongest physical body. He had not tested it to the limit, and he was not sure whether he had reached a demigod level. But thinking about it, even if it was not as good, it was not far away. Perhaps, as Lin Jianlong said before, it was the physical body of a half-step demigod? No, it should be said that it was a half-god body that just touched the threshold. He laughed in his heart. In addition, the bigger surprise was the soul. It can only be said that Yan's physique is worthy of being a simplified version of him. The nether soul body forging method formed on this basis, after continuous forging, has a considerable increase in the soul surplus. In just 2 hours, he has increased the soul surplus by about 50 or 60. It is comparable to the effect of his crazy absorption of time and space memory fragments for a week. So far, his soul surplus has returned to the astonishing number of more than 200. In this transformation of the soul, the divine genes in his body have also increased. In just 2 hours, 4 were generated, which is very amazing. You know, even at his current training speed, it takes a week to generate one. After all, as his physical body is strengthened, the efficiency of divine gene generation continues to decline. And this one-time increase, plus the accumulation of the past week, basically, his divine genes have reached about 4.7 cores. It is very close to 5 cores. The total amount of divinity has quietly crossed the boundary of the 9th stage of the heavenly position and has initially reached the level of the strongest. So far, even the total amount of divinity, which is the shortest board, has reached a very amazing level. Although the gap with the soul and the body is still large, it is also very amazing. It is worth mentioning that the total amount of divinity has reached the level comparable to the strongest, and there seems to be no amazing transformation. Liu thought, or maybe his previous prison-suppressing divinity has already transformed in advance. The quality of the prison-suppressing divinity is still very high. He has tried it in actual combat, and it is basically a little higher than Qin Longquan, the first demigod. After all, this is a special divinity that can efficiently control time and space. It is not outrageous to have such a quality. Therefore, he estimated that the total amount of the strongest level cannot allow his divinity to transform further. It should be necessary to meet certain conditions, or have an amazing understanding of time and space and other conceptual characteristics, before there will be a transformation of divinity. Of course, these are not the biggest gains. It is his body. It is not about strength, but the body, which vaguely adds a hint of immortality. Yes, immortality. It was very subtle, but Liu did have a hint of such a feeling in his heart. And this so-called immortal taste was something he had never noticed in the two demigods, Qin Longquan and Yan. Each cell seemed to be an independent individual with extremely strong vitality. Moreover, it was extremely strong. A single one seemed to have the ability to survive in thousands of degrees of high temperature. A sense of enlightenment rose in Liu's heart. This was a genetic effect. After being fully supplemented by various bodybuilding methods, the physical body reached a certain limit. It was the physical body that communicated with the gods, and reached the demigod limit with pure physical body, not divine genes. Compared with other demigod bodies, his strength, speed, physical potential, and survivability were all slightly better than theirs. I see, the so-called demigod, the realm of God, is not the change that the divine gene brings to intelligent creatures, it's the natural transformation that occurs when the body, soul, divinity, nucleus, any one of them reaches this limit. This is the law of nature, so, even if my divine gene is still a long way from being the strongest, I can still naturally step into the realm of God after my body reaches its limit. Normal people use the amplification of the strongest nucleus to allow their bodies to undergo a comprehensive transformation and enter the realm of God, and I can also achieve this effect by achieving it through other paths alone. This shows that in addition to the demigod of the physical body, there is also the demigod of the soul and the demigod of divinity. The demigod of the physical body has given me a hint of immortality that other demigods do not have. Then, if I don't use the strongest nucleus, but instead make my soul and divinity reach the demigod level respectively, can I also have the same special transformation, although the total amount and strength of my soul are high? It is still a long way from the boundary of demigod. Next, I can try starting from this path. After reviewing the whole thing, Liu slowly opened his eyes. In front, Tan Yaozu and Xiao Pingchuan had dim eyes, relieved and envious. Having just been scolded by Lin Jianlong, it was no wonder that they had mixed feelings when they saw Li Yi's breakthrough. Lin Jianlong stared at Li Yi, a trace of shock flashed across his eyes. Is this the taste of immortality? This kid, it seems that he is really walking on an extremely smooth road. In his eyes, Li Yi's body has already shown an extremely special glass quality. Time and space outside his body seemed to be vaguely isolated and could not have more influence on his body. Because my mother suddenly felt dizzy in the morning, I took her to check it out quickly. Fortunately, it was not an acute disease, but just cervical spondylosis compressing the blood vessels, and it would be fine after it eased. There were guests at home again in the afternoon, so this chapter was delayed for a long time. The subsequent updates will be at a normal pace. Chapter 442 Immortality. Li Yi, congratulations, you have proved that the path you're on is absolutely correct. Lin Jianlong carefully observed the space-time structure isolated from the outside of Li Yi's body. To be honest, he suspected that he had seen it wrong when he saw this hint of immortality. After he mastered the cosmic light characteristic that could instantly cross countless light years, he could vaguely sense this special path to immortality. He has been maintaining this state and has not continued to break through, also in order to explore this path. Because he realized that once he was promoted, he would never be able to touch immortality again. But he didn't expect that Li Yi, a rising star, would actually touch this limit. Absolutely correct. What do you mean by that, Chief Lin? Li Yi was surprised. Lin Jianlong said, to put it simply, the more you can take a completely different path from the original divine evolution system, the more correct it is, especially since you have a hint of immortality at this moment. This proves everything, because as far as I know, even quasi-gods find it difficult to cultivate immortality. Only a few powerful quasi-gods and supreme beings can cultivate immortality. You should know about the conceptual body, right? Li Yu nodded. He didn't know much about the conceptual body. He had only heard of it when Yan said that there was a super strong person who had cultivated the conceptual body in her mind. Lin Jianlong said, the essence of the concept body is also to pursue the characteristic of immortality. The concept body is to train your own body into a concept, so that it can not only resist the invasion of time and space changes, but also resist most of the powerful attacks in this world, which is also a kind of immortality. But this method consumes a lot of energy. Only the top quasi-gods or the Supreme can have it. This trick, even the Supreme cannot use it for a long time. But I see that you have this trace of immortality from the root. In other words, your immortality is not consumed, it is a natural characteristic. Hearing this, Li Yi's heart moved. What does Chief Lin mean? Is that mine is more advanced? Lin Jianlong smiled and said, be more confident. You can reach this point at this stage. I think it has surpassed all the history of our human race. Of course, those top supremas should have mastered the method of long-term residence in the concept body, which is also the key to the difference in strength between the supremas. Li Yu nodded. It seems that the limit of his breakthrough this time is indeed very high. Thor, Poseidon, Zulu, Chongqing, Mingpo, including Chen Kai-ong's special physique, the transformation and forging brought to each of the strongest people by various divine sequences have allowed his body to reach a certain state of perfection. Then how do techniques like the Thunder God body and the Ice God body compare to the concept body? Lin Jianlong explained, these are the products of the divine sequence sublimated to the limit, and are basically a comprehensive technique of the sequence. Not only does it require the main divine gene to have a strong enough impact on the physical body, so that the physical body has enough sequence characteristics, it also requires a high level of understanding of the divinity of the sequence. Only when you reach this level can you practice the sequence divine body. It and the concept body are in a superior and inferior relationship. Only after practicing the sequence divine body can you continue to evolve and practice the concept body. Just like divinity, the ordinary divinity mastered by the evolvers, and when they reach the heavenly rank, they master the heavenly rank characteristics. For some of the stronger ones, this heavenly rank characteristic already has the initial conceptual characteristics. Generally speaking, the sequence divine body requires at least a demigod to be able to practice it, and in fact, even a demigod finds it difficult to practice it, because this is an extremely sophisticated comprehensive technique. There are too many things to master, and it is not a necessary technique for advancement. Of course, after reaching a high enough level, these techniques become the best techniques to avoid disasters. Many top supreme beings, in the early stage of the disaster, as long as they were not caught off guard, relied on the conceptual body to avoid the initial impact. Then, various arrangements were made. For example, the Starlight Supreme, although he did not master the conceptual body, he also mastered the extremely profound Starlight Sequence divine body, which maintained him for a while, and then made various arrangements, and even had the spare energy to save the life of Dan Chenli, the quasi-god. The reason why various resurrectors appear repeatedly in our later eras is because the disasters are not as severe as recorded by the Starlight Supreme. Hearing this, not only Li Yi, but also Tan Yaozu and Xiao Pingchuan were surprised. The three of them vaguely felt that Lin Jianlong knew too much. Although Lin Jianlong is the pillar of mankind, there are so many contents, and the previous databases of various aspects and intelligence records in this regard do not seem to have so much, right? Tan Yaozu couldn't help but ask. Not that fierce. Lin Jianlong smiled and said, the calamity is actually a very long-lasting disaster. The fiercest wave is born by the strongest in an era. After that, it was transmitted to the second strongest, then it continued to expand, covering all the top strong men and continuing to wear them down. Only when all the supreme beings are worn out and completely dead, will it continue to be transmitted to the quasi-gods. The time that has passed in between is not a moment or a second, it is decades. Hundreds of years. The first strong man to die will become one of the forces of the calamity. The supreme beings will communicate with each other at the beginning and learn about each other's intelligence. When they learned through the changes of the first supreme being who fell that the calamity would use the power of the supreme strong men to wipe out other strong men, they knew that the calamity would inevitably be unavoidable and they had to fake their death to deal with it. The first one who tried to fake his death was directly revived a few days later. As a result, he was entangled by the calamity again. Because his strength was not good after he was revived, he fell quickly and couldn't even use the means of faking his death. Those who revive after a few years are finished, because the disaster cannot be eliminated in just a few years. The supreme beings who survived will naturally know that they cannot fake their death casually. It must be revived after all the supreme beings are consumed and die. And even after all the same races have died before it can be revived. Think about it, how long will it take for the disaster to be transmitted from the supreme beings to the quasi-gods, demigods, and even the strongest people with long lifespans? The three of them were silent. The things that Lin Jianlong was talking about were much more secretive than the information they had learned before. They were wondering how Lin Jianlong knew so much. Could it be that Lin Jianlong was also a reviver? Lin Jianlong seemed to have seen what they were thinking, but he didn't say anything, just smiled gently at the three of them. After a moment, Li Yu said, the power of the disaster will become stronger and stronger, so once the supreme level and the quasi-god level are all consumed, the ones behind will die instantly, right, Chief Lin? Chapter 443 History. Lin Jianlong looked at Li Yu in surprise and nodded, that's right. The time taken for this process depends only on how long the last supreme being or the last quasi-god can hold on. Then the question is, if during this process, there is one or more supreme beings who can withstand the disaster for a long time and insist on not faking their death, guess what will happen? The three of them were shocked and had the same thought. Could it be that this is the reason why the disaster came so early in their era? At this time, they had more speculations about Lin Jianlong in their hearts. The three of them exchanged glances secretly, and none of them mentioned this question first. Lin Jianlong didn't seem to care about the looks in their eyes, and smiled. From the looks of you, you should understand, at the end of the second era, a supreme being relied on his profound conceptual body to withstand the disaster for a long time. You understand, in the later stage of the disaster, it is a prisoner's dilemma among the top supreme beings. They understand that there are only a few supreme beings left in the end, but the remaining supreme beings are also the strongest, enough to dominate an era. They are wary of each other, and no one wants to be the first to fake death, because they know that if they can still hold on, the remaining person who is as famous as him will definitely persist, and it is precisely because they have to close the channels of information between each other that they have to endure and prolong this disaster to their limits. So, this leads to the weaker supreme beings who have laid back hands, being directly destroyed by the disaster after thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of years of recovery. Even if the supreme beings are revived, their strength is very weak, but they will still be found by the disaster. The situation is worse than those quasi-gods. This has caused the overall strength of the third era to be far inferior to the previous two eras, many times. The Supremas have a great influence on the next era. They climbed to the top, but could not climb higher. Faced with their own decline, they had to come up with various strategies and leave behind many backup plans and inheritances. But the third era was not as brilliant as the previous two eras due to the influence of the previous era, and strong people emerged in large numbers. It is also a spectacle that middle-class supremas like Supreme Puang can dominate. Then, the fourth era accumulated strength until the fifth era, when an unprecedented era of strong people emerged again. So if nothing unexpected happens, in the fifth era, there will be several strong people who can withstand disasters for a long time again. Then, it will be our turn to suffer. The disaster becomes more and more terrifying as time accumulates. and the crystallization of civilization of the previous eras is destroyed in an instant. Moreover, the huge energy accumulated by this disaster left too much after destroying the fifth era. Therefore, our era will usher in a new disaster before it develops to the threshold of 1 million years, and if nothing unexpected happens, it will be more fierce than the previous ones. Hearing this, the three were even more shocked. No matter what the cause of the disaster was, they knew it would come, so they didn't feel deeply about the secret. But they felt that the lifespan and methods of these top masters were outrageous. 1 million years? The Supreme Being could control himself to revive after 1 million years? Is there really a life that can live that long? After all, the strongest people in the world today are estimated to live no more than 3,000 years, right? Tanyaozu couldn't help asking, can a Supreme Being really live that long? Lin Jianlong shook his head and said, it depends on the race, but generally speaking, the ceiling of the lifespan of a heavenly being is 1,000 years, with an average of 600 or 700. The ceiling of the lifespan of a Supreme Being is about 5,000 years, with an average of 3,000 or 4,000. When it comes to demigods, the ceiling of lifespan is about 50,000 years, with an average of 10,000 years. The ceiling of quasi-gods is 200,000 years, with an average of 100,000 years. The span of the Supreme Being is even larger, with a ceiling of 1 million years, with an average of 300,000 years. But if they activate the conceptual body or the sequence God body for a long time, their lifespan can be extended even longer, even beyond your imagination. In essence, as long as you master the perfect conceptual body, you may be able to achieve immortality. Of course, this is only a possibility, a hypothesis, an alternative method for those who fail to advance to the true God level. They use the conceptual body to hide in the space-time layer to avoid the invasion of disasters, wait until the disaster is completely quelled, then slowly recover, restore strength, and accumulate resources in the next year to explore the truth of the disaster and find new ways to avoid it. They left their heritage in various star fields, guided the birth of civilizations for new races, researched new technologies, and fed back to themselves. This is the truth behind the top powerhouses that can survive for so many eras, revive, and be active in each era. Many of the Supreme Beings with the same name in the first and fifth eras that you saw in the materials are actually the same person. It's just that the people who left the records didn't know the truth because their strength was not yet at that level, so they were in a fog. As a result, the information left over from our era has already had many deviations. Li Yi said thoughtfully, what about the original saints? According to that woman, she was born to live for 10,000 years, and she can live for hundreds of thousands of years by practicing casually. Since this race has the secret of living for such a long time, why didn't anyone fight for it in ancient times? Lin Jianlong shrugged and said, the existence of the original saints is too hidden. They are born with extremely strong hiding abilities. Under normal circumstances, they can't be found at all. We are lucky to find a half-formed original saint this time. The three listened to Lin Jianlong talk about a bunch of secrets, and the suspicion in their hearts was about to burst out. Tanyaozu was the first to ask, Chief Lin, who are you and why do you know such secret information? Lin Jianlong smiled, glanced at everyone, and said, as you guessed, I am indeed a resurrector. Tanyaozu was stunned. Xiao Pingchuan was also a little bit unbelievable. The powerful boss he had always respected and admired was actually a resurrector? Chief, are you kidding? Kidding. Lin Jianlong shook his head. There is no need to make such jokes at this time. I will tell you some secrets of the ancient times frankly because you are almost at the time to understand the truth. After all, the war we are going to face will become bigger and bigger. The reason why the quasi-god Puang sought cooperation with humans is because he discovered my existence. His appearance also let me know that it is about time to tell you something, and the most critical and important thing is the immortality I saw in Li Yi. Although it is only a resemblance, it is a crucial trace. Chapter 444, Human Ancestor. So, Chief Lin, will you be our enemy? Li Yi did not intend to beat around the bush and asked directly. Although he was also curious about why Lin Jianlong changed so much after seeing this trace of immortality. But at the moment, the enemy-to-enemy relationship was obviously more important. However, Li Yi still did not choose to decipher Lin Jianlong's brain waves. This was his trust in Lin Jianlong after many contacts. Lin Jianlong smiled slightly. Then what do you think my purpose is? Tanyaozu said in a deep voice, I believe in Chief Lin. Human beings have gone through hardships for so many years. What Chief Lin did was not empty. He was actually fighting against powerful enemies and resisting pressure from all sides. Even if you are a resurrector, I believe you are different from his Undeo. Xiao Pingchuan hesitated for a while, and still said, Chief Lin, please don't keep us in suspense. Unless you really do something that is not good for humans and us, I will not doubt your position. Lin Jianlong raised his head and laughed. The reactions of several people satisfied him. It seems that what I have done over the years has not been in vain. Don't worry, I am naturally in the same camp with you from the beginning to the end, because I am one of the first humans. I am not afraid to tell you that the Supreme Being who has cultivated the conceptual body in Yan's mind is the ancestor of mankind. He is called the Supreme Being of Daohu, and he is also a super strong man who mainly cultivates the soul sequence. The three were shocked. The first human race? Aren't humans a race that was born in this earth? Moreover, from what Lin Jianlong said, could Yan also be one of the first humans? Li Yu seemed to be thinking about something, and said, then, Chief Lin, were you a quasi-god before? Or a demigod? Lin Jianlong shrugged, but did not give a direct answer. He just said, the past is the past. After resurrecting in this era, we humans have to start from scratch. In order to avoid the super disaster of the fifth era, we had to die completely, because if it was just a simple fake death, we would still be wiped out by the super disaster when we resurrected in a later stage, and this method was also deduced by our ancestor, the Supreme Daohu. Other races can't come up with these. In terms of combat power, the Supreme Daohu may be weaker than other Supremas. But in terms of wisdom and deductive ability, he is more than one level stronger than other Supremas. Without him, our human race would not be able to be reborn and rise in this sixth era. Li Yu said, Chapter Lin means that besides you and Sister Yan, are there any other strong people among us humans who are resurrected? No, Yan and I are the only two survivors. Lin Jianlong shook his head, and a trace of loneliness flashed across his eyes. Old Qin and Duanmu, although they obtained the soul fragments of two quasi-gods of our generation, they are still considered to be figures of the new era. Because the resurrection of the two quasi-gods failed, only the soul fragments were left. Nothing else. As for the two brothers Lao Feng and Ma Zhao and Ma Yu, they are so young, so they are naturally newcomers. Basically, as a subspecies outside the mainstream race of the fifth era, it was a stroke of luck for us humans to have a Daohu Supreme, your current batch, including those who were just born tens of thousands of years ago. Our all Daohu Supremas, who left their gene seeds until the end of the disaster, and slowly developed and reborn, Yang and I, as well as several other allies, were resurrected 300 years ago and gradually guided the development of human civilization. Our resurrection is different from that of other resurrectors. We are determined to abandon our original power and start over. Therefore, of the original 7 quasi-god level resurrectors, only Yan and I were left. The other 5 died due to the risks in their growth. It can only be said that it was time and fate. Even Yan seems to have forgotten too much now. At this point, Lin Jianlong shook his head slightly. Tan Yaozu asked in confusion, then why did you give up your previous power and start over? Lin Jianlong said, it's very simple. In order to pursue the true immortality, if we follow the original path, we can't cultivate the immortality at all, and we can't resist the punishment of disasters at all. The deduction of Daohu Supreme is also telling us that no matter what means we use, we can't survive under disasters. Even if it is a conceptual body, it has to rely on the space-time layer to exist under disasters for a long time. Only by obtaining the immortality can we truly reach the realm of true God and completely transcend it. Li Yu was also curious, what's so special about the immortality? Can this perfectly resist disasters? Is this really feasible? Although he felt that the immortality born from his physical body had great potential, he really had no idea to what extent it could be achieved. You really don't know how to appreciate your blessings, Lin Jianlong said speechlessly. It's more than special. You have reached the sky in one step. The immortality is what all the supreme beings pursue their whole lives. They have never been able to make their bodies have the immortality in their entire lives, so they can only settle for the next best thing and pursue the sequence God body and the concept body. Although the concept body has all kinds of wonders, it is essentially just a substitute for the immortality. Those who have the immortality need to consume a lot of divinity to have the concept body. Those who don't have the immortality can't have the concept body. Tan Yaozu was surprised and said, it sounds a bit awesome, but isn't this too outrageous? Although Li Yu is a genius among geniuses, Li Yu actually has something that the supreme beings can get. Director Lin, are you sure you are not kidding? It's not that Tan Yaozu doesn't believe in Li Yu's genius, but this is really outrageous. After all, Li Yu's current strength, even if it is close to demigod, is not yet demigod. Such a person can actually practice something that countless supreme beings have not been able to practice in the past 5 years? Isn't this unrealistic? To be honest, I couldn't believe it when I saw it. Lin Jianlong shook his head and said, but there is no way, this is reality, otherwise I wouldn't tell you so many secrets now. Now that Li Yi has cultivated this trace of immortality, our next plan must be changed, and, Li Yi, you must hide yourself now. Li Yi also agreed with Tan Yaozu's opinion and said, Director Lin, are you exaggerating? This immortality is actually not difficult to practice. The supreme beings are at a high level and should not be unable to do this. Lin Jianlong glanced at Li Yi and his mouth twitched slightly. This kid. He really deserves a beating. I gave up the power of a lifetime and couldn't do it again. You say it's not difficult? Chapter 445 Years. Everyone still had many questions about the ancient times. But considering that the starship was close to the ruins of time, everyone put aside their work for the time being and headed to the hangar to prepare for departure. Yan arrived late on time. She greeted everyone while flying towards the Nether Soul Mecha. Sorry for being late, Yan, where have you been? I was practicing the Nether Soul body. Oh? No wonder the AI couldn't find you before. It turns out that you are in the state of incarnation of a ghost? How is your practice progress? Lin Jianlong asked with interest. The sequenced divine body is a technique that can greatly increase combat power and survivability. As long as you can master a part of it, your combat power will increase greatly. Now that he, Yan, and Li Yi are the 3 top powerhouses, there is no need to worry about not achieving great things. If they can seize the time book and crack the code inside, and directly destroy the strong men of the Star Clan, the battlefield on the front line will instantly be much easier. It can be said that their next battle in the ruins of time will determine the future rise and fall of mankind. It's just so, I've mastered it roughly, Yan answered casually, flew to the Dark Soul Mech and entered directly. Although her memory has not recovered in these days, she has a general understanding of her situation. Basically, she can be regarded as a reliable fighting force. She entered the cockpit of the Dark Soul Mech, and suddenly her heart moved slightly, and she remembered something. She started a private chat and talked directly to Li Yi. Good brother, please reply if you received it. Received? What's the matter, Sister Yan? Can't I call you if there's nothing else? That's fine. Well, there's still something I want to tell you. Yan's voice became more serious. The 3 time and space relics of time, years, and time are extraordinary. You must be careful. If you encounter any problems, feel free to find me. Sister's strength is pretty good and I can definitely protect you, although I know that you have mastered a lot of time and space skills, and you may be able to gain a lot of good things in it, but remember, don't be stubborn. If you encounter something you can't handle, don't try to force it to crack it. Staying away is the right way. Although my memory has not recovered in the past 2 days, I still have a vague feeling of practicing the body of the underworld soul. That is, I lost my memory before and was in danger. Maybe I touched the terrible existence in the relics. Li Yi nodded slightly and listened to Yan's confession. At this time, Lin Jianlong was also explaining some of the situations in the relics of the years and various precautions. Everyone had heard it several times before. But this time, Lin Jianlong still took the trouble to explain it. Everyone listened silently. At this time, Tan Yaozu asked, speaking of which, what are the differences between the 3 relics of time, years, and time? To be honest, although you masters have been saying that these 3 relics are very important, what is the difference between these 3 relics? Lin Jianlong explained, there are many ways to express time and space characteristics. I believe you know, right? In our vocabulary system, time, years, and time can refer to the same thing, that is, time. But because of their different forms of expression, or the existence that the flow of time relies on, their specific powers and effects are different. For example, the time characteristic relies on light and uses light to control time, and light is the fastest in the universe. Basically, as long as you master time, you can easily cross the universe, jump light years, and travel through time and space. My cosmic light characteristic is a variant of the time characteristic. It is a characteristic that maximizes the jumping power in the time characteristic. The years characteristic relies on planets and celestial bodies. It is a characteristic that uses huge material entities to control time. Therefore, The time characteristic is the most lethal characteristic among the time characteristics. Once it is activated, it can instantly control the time and space changes of a huge entity, thereby exerting powerful power. The world is changing, that's how it is. In addition to the time characteristic, there are also similar variant characteristics, such as the spring and autumn characteristics, the season characteristics, and so on. The light and shadow characteristics rely on the shadow of light, silent, invisible, traceless, formless, colorless. Time can be changed quietly. This is the characteristic that controls the dark side of the universe. This characteristic is also the one that is best at creating and controlling the space-time interlayer. When the three characteristics are combined into one, it is possible to achieve a true space-time characteristic, with a terrifying power to reverse time and space and control the origin of the universe. At this point, Lin Jianlong showed a yearning look on his face. At this point, I believe that I can achieve the immortality of divinity, and I will have a better chance to approach the realm of true gods and completely get rid of the troubles of disasters. Li Yi's heart moved slightly when he heard this. It's interesting. According to his previous calculations, there should be a demigod boundary between the body, soul, divinity, and genes. Only by truly breaking through this boundary can one reach the corresponding immortal realm. He has already obtained a trace of physical immortality. If he continues to introduce various bodybuilding methods, this immortality should become stronger and stronger. As for the soul, he is born with the ability to absorb the memories of parallel worlds. With continuous growth, he should also have the opportunity to touch this boundary. It's just that I haven't heard Lin Jianlong mention the immortality of the soul. Maybe there are other barriers to achieve the immortality of the soul. In the future, if I can sleep more in the ruins of time and absorb the time and space memory fragments of the ancient times, I may be able to have a different breakthrough. As for divinity and genes, the demigod boundary of divinity should be the realm of God's intention. Since Li Yi debuted, he has only encountered masters of the spirit-giving realm of the Enlightenment Mountain. If those supremas have never obtained the immortality before, it means that perhaps they should touch the demigod boundaries in various aspects before being promoted to demigods in order to obtain the corresponding immortality. There must be some masters who have cultivated the divine realm among those supreme beings, but they did not obtain the immortality characteristic. Which can only mean that they were promoted too early, or that they used the divine core to force their own growth, resulting in the complete loss of this opportunity. Li Yi pondered in his heart. Although he had no evidence to prove whether his guess was correct. But he thought that this was probably the reason. Otherwise, according to the knowledge of Lin Jianlong, a resurrected quasi-god, it is impossible that he did not obtain the immortality characteristic at any level. It could only be that there was something wrong with Lin Jianlong's promotion path. Although they realized that they had to live again in order to have the opportunity to cultivate the immortality characteristic, it was obvious that after being promoted to demigod, they completely lost this opportunity. At this time, outside the cabin of the starship, driven by the divine flames, 6 divine mechas quickly flew to the ruins of the years ahead. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 446 Launch. The 6 divine mechas are naturally Li Yi, Lin Jianlong, Yan, Tanyao Zhu, Xiao Pingchuan, and Lu Yansheng, who has recovered for a while. Among them, the divine mechas of Tanyao Zhu and Lu Yansheng have not been upgraded to S level with them, and are still in the high-level state of A level. Li Yi is driving the Pluto Mecha this time. The rest of the Heavenly King and Gaia mechas, although they have been promoted to A level, have not yet reached the high level of A level. Li Yi has also considered whether the 3 mechas can be combined into one. Unfortunately, there is no such technology at present. According to Lin Jianlong, at least in the 5th era, there is no technology that can make the divine mechas combine into one. Maybe there was in the past, but at least Lin Jianlong really didn't understand it. Therefore, the level heights of these 6 divine mechas are also different. But at least all the members are now above the strongest level. Even if the height of the mecha is slightly inferior, the hard power will not be too much different. The main thing is that the body's defense and defense-breaking power will be slightly worse. But in terms of mobility, the pilot has the upper hand when they are of equal strength. Swoosh! Various divine flames flashed, and 6 tall divine mechas landed on a planet with thin air. They turned into meteors and fell in the air less than a kilometer above the ground in the blink of an eye. Everyone looked down under the vision of the detection system. This is a desolate and gray planet. Although it carries the relics of time, it looks ordinary from the outside, just like an insignificant star among the countless stars in the stardust corridor. Why can't I see the relics of time? It needs to be activated by the time-related properties, Lin Jianlong replied, and directly controlled the Xianzhou Mecha to activate the cosmic light properties. In an instant, brilliant and gorgeous flames flash with the Xianzhou Mecha, wave after wave, spreading in all directions like a tide. Buzz! The whole planet shook. Crackling, countless granite-like rocks, accompanied by the vibration of the planet, kept sliding down on their respective bald mountains. In front of the mechas, with a pop, a tiny dot flashed out like rippling water, and then expanded on the spot. A huge bright white ring appeared in front of everyone in an instant. Everyone immediately understood that this should be the entrance to the ruins of time. Lin Jianlong was familiar with the route, and with a call, he drove the Xianzhou Mecha slowly into it. Everyone drove the divine mechas and followed one after another. Li Yu was the last one to fall, and activated the wide area mode of the detection system of the Pluto Mecha to collect trace information of the surrounding planets on a large scale. He also wanted to confirm when the 3 branch-level strongmen of the Star Clan arrived here. Although they were probably also suspended in the air, directly activating the entrance to the ruins of time to enter it. But with Li Yi's current subtle insight, this was not a big deal. He only needed to leave traces nearby, and he could quickly figure out the situation with his perfect level tracking skills and the detection system of the Pluto Mecha. In just a moment, under his current powerful brain power, he immediately collected the traces of the surrounding environment and analyzed it quickly. Sure enough, a hint of understanding emerged in his heart. Li Yi, why are you slowing down? Catch up, Lu Yansheng's shout came from the front. The Pluto Mecha flew into the entrance with a faint blue flame. Buzz! The field of vision changed instantly. The time and space load here is so strong, Li Yi's face changed slightly. Since he mastered the divinity of the prison, he can feel the so-called time and space load. If the load outside is 1, then the time and space load in the ruins of the years is 10. This time and space load is more fierce than the divine suppression, and it can make the soul feel drowsy. He activated a brain superlifting technique and entered the state of the self-consciousness to get rid of this uncomfortable state. The divine mecha seems to be much heavier. Li Yu activated the divinity at hand, tried it quickly, and felt relieved. Fortunately, under this time and space load, his skills such as air-suppressing membrane, space cutting, and time controlling can be activated normally, and the consumption increase is not too large and acceptable. It seems that if a battle occurs in this place, those who are good at time and space characteristics will get a greater increase. While observing, Li Yu found that his prison-suppressing divinity seemed to smell something delicious and seemed to be getting restless. Well, what is attracting the prison-suppressing divinity? At the same time, the overall strategy plan for the human race against the star race has begun one after another. Although the plans that Li Yi, Tan Yaozhu, Xiao Pingchuan, and Lu Yansheng participated in have changed. But their original plans themselves have not been affected. Because with the training of a group of human masters by Li Yi for a whole month before, the strength of various heavenly masters has increased. People like He Guangzi and Chen Yanxiang, who were promoted to the strongest later, are even more surprising and can become the key to the victory or defeat of the key part. At this moment, the outer star gate of Chang'an Star in the Scorching Star region, a 430-meter-long cosmic drifting box suddenly jumped out from outside the star gate. It was Fang Hai, the strongest human who executed the drift shielding plan. In the box was Fang Hai's exclusive mecha, the Gravitation God Sequence Skytrack Mecha. The mecha he was driving was 412 meters high, in the middle of the S-Class, with blue and white colors intertwined throughout the body, shaped like a mighty god, with thick armor and sharp horns, eyes with bright divine light, and the style was a classic heavy armor. His mission was to sneak into the heart of the Scorching Star field with the help of the small Stargate plus Tan Yaozhu's slope anti-entropy blessing plus the transformation of the drift box, and use his personal characteristics to destroy the star chain communication system of Chang'an Star. It is worth mentioning that the communication system used by the Star Clan originated from its superior golden race, the Feather God Clan. The Star Clan itself does not master this part of technology. Therefore, once the comprehensive destruction is completed, with the current technical strength of the Star Clan, It will not be possible to quickly repair this communication system. Normally, unless it is attacked by multiple strong men at the same time, the command and communication system of the Star Clan will never be destroyed. Communication will never be interfered with. But Fang Hai's major, the Skytrack feature, can manipulate gravity linearly and turn it into a Skytrack. With the help of the Skytrack Mecha, he can remotely control the gravity lines more than 10 light seconds away in a split second, guide those Starlink communicators to change their orbits, and accelerate to fly towards him. Then, he destroys them all at the same time. Precisely because the targets to be destroyed are scattered over a wide area, they need to be destroyed as soon as possible to avoid the news being leaked. Therefore, among the strongest humans, only he can complete such a difficult task. Even Lin Jianlong can move quickly, but he cannot complete the ultra-long-range destruction of at least hundreds of targets in an instant. The so-called specialization is true. It seems that I'm lucky and got out smoothly. Feng Hai quickly observed from the perspective of the detection system and felt slightly relieved. Then, notify other fronts in the front and prepare to launch. Chapter 447 The God of Years. The prison-suppressing divine being was ready to move. Li Yu could clearly feel that something in front of him was attracting the prison-suppressing divine being. This was extremely rare. Divine being itself was a very special form of energy. Could it be that what attracted him was some kind of energy of higher purity that could be absorbed? This was something that he had never encountered in any level-up pool. After thinking for a while, he said, "Chief Lin, which direction should we go?" Lin Jianlong pondered and said, "We can't be in a hurry now that we are here. Let's first investigate the traces of activities of the 3 Zivu-level star tribes." Everyone immediately divided into 2 groups and explored separately. Li Yu, Yan, and Tang Yaozu were in one group, responsible for the western route. Lin Jianlong, Lu Yanchen, and Xiao Pingchun were in one group, responsible for the eastern route. With their current configuration, any group could resist 3 Zivu-level masters, and even had a chance to win. Therefore, they were not afraid of the weakness brought by the division of forces. After all, there were 2 strong men with guaranteed semigod level strength leading the team, and everyone was still very confident. At this moment, the divine mechas are still gathered inside the entrance. They have just stepped into the ruins of time and are ready to start searching. It can be seen that the environment ahead is quite special. On this side of the entrance, there is a tall mountain, about 10,000 meters above sea level, with a flat top and thick snow covering it, dividing the sunset into 2 lines. One side reflects the sunset in red and white, and the other side is covered by shadows. The mechas are suspended above it, looking down. Further ahead, there is a very obvious space-time layer. The huge, colorful space-time membrane that covers everything directly blocks everyone's vision. The area covered by the space-time membrane is about half the size of the moon, which is quite large. The ruins of time itself is a large space-time layer, forming a small world of its own, and there is actually another one inside. The one who created the ruins of time must have been a powerful person who had reached a very high level in the field of time and space. The space-time layer was suspended in the air. 1,000 meters below, there was a vast plain with lush greenery, swaying reeds, puddles, and a large reed marsh in the middle that surrounded the water pools. It was at least 7 or 8 meters high, which was very amazing. The 6 mechas turned in the opposite direction and began to fly separately. Don't rush to fly far away. Let me observe first. Li Yu activated a detection system and carefully observed and scanned the plane below. Yan nodded immediately, hovered in the air, and waited for Li Yi. Tan Yaozu knew that Li Yu was proficient in trace search, so he naturally had no objection. After a while, a trace of doubt flashed across Li Yi's eyes. He had just discovered an extremely exquisite special space-time structure under those water pools. This space-time structure was very secretive and imperceptible, like a honeycomb that was shrunk countless times. Even with the help of the information detection system of the Pluto Mecha and his subtle perception, he almost didn't find it. If he hadn't been cautious and noticed a hint of unnatural space-time characteristics, he really wouldn't have discovered this hidden structure and would have just regarded it as a normal natural structure. These space-time structures are obviously not original natural space-time structures, but stable structures modified by human power, like space-time batteries. Each tiny structure contains an extremely deep space-time power, comparable to the power of a peak demigod. When combined, even the Supreme can interfere at will. This is probably the power of the characteristics of time and space, Once entering it, the divine mecha, including the driver, will instantly lose a lot of time and perish directly. After figuring this out, Li quickly said on the public channel, "Don't get close to the water below the space-time layer. Once within 1,000 meters of it, the divine mecha will instantly lose control. If you don't have a deep understanding of the characteristics of space-time, you may turn into bones in the blink of an eye, and your thousands of years of life will be consumed in the blink of an eye." Everyone was shocked when they heard this. Lin Jianlong, who had already flown far away, heard this and immediately activated a detection system to carefully observe the water. After a while, he said solemnly, "What Li said is right. Everyone, be careful. Once a battle occurs, stay away from the water area as soon as possible." Several people were naturally dignified. 1,000 years of life wasted in the blink of an eye? Is this the power of the time characteristic? It seems that compared with time and time relics, the time characteristic is more harmful to them who have a short lifespan. Everyone was obviously more cautious and the flying speed was reduced a lot. In a blink of an eye, 10 minutes passed quickly. The mechas had already flown to the back of the huge space-time sandwich, and they could not see each other directly. During the flight, Li's focus was on the opposite direction of the space-time sandwich. The thing that has always attracted the godhood of the prison came from there. "Sister Yan, we have walked around and found nothing. Why don't we go to that direction to have a look?" Li suggested. Yan said, "Okay, anyway, I am just a thug. I don't have any experience and memory, so I'll leave the team to you." Tanyaozu naturally had no objection, and immediately turned and flew to a more peripheral direction. This side happened to be the direction of the setting sun. The deep red sun should be a conceptual image of the sun, not a star. It continued to release a vast red light, dyeing the clouds and waves, and illuminating the surrounding mountains. Time passed slowly, and another hour passed. With the speed of the mechas, even if they flew slowly and carefully, the distance in between should exceed the distance between the Earth and the Moon, but now they still couldn't see anything else. The ground was still a vast plain, with large bodies of water that needed to be avoided from time to time. "Oh my god, this is not another case of looking at the mountain and running to death, right?" Tanyaozu remembered his previous experience at Wudao Mountain. They had seen Wudao Mountain long ago in the cyclone area, but it took them several days to reach the periphery. Yan was in the cockpit, his eyes flashing, and said, "No, it's not a case of looking at the mountain and running to death. At least I can see a large number of free souls now, moving in the clouds under the sunset." Free souls. Tanyaozu's heart moved, and he said, "Like the Supreme Puang, who has thousands of clones, when he was on the surface of Wudao Mountain before, he was almost invaded and possessed by one of the souls, but it was fortunate that Li arrived." "No, every soul I saw was different," Yan said, "and every one of them was of the strength of a demigod." Tanyaozu frowned. All of them were of the strength of a demigod? Could it be that those were the demigod souls left over from the Fifth Era? They were not completely destroyed by the disaster. Li sensed the increasingly intense agitation of the prison suppression divine. Obviously, there was something special in the sunset. Perhaps it was some kind of time-space treasure, or perhaps some special item. In short, it should be of great help to the prison suppression divine. The three were discussing. Suddenly, in the sunset, the outline of a huge and majestic black giant slowly emerged. Everyone could see that on the forehead of the black giant, the word "year" from the first arrow was engraved. Immediately afterwards, an unprecedented terrifying pressure was released by the giant and spread to the three people in the cockpit. Their faces suddenly changed, and they felt as if they were carrying a huge star on their shoulders, which was terribly heavy. Boom! In the sunset, a majestic giant hand suddenly stretched out and reached the clouds below. Chapter 448, Divine Envoy. Boom! With a loud noise, the majestic giant hand grabbed the cloud layer. The cloud layer shrank inward like rubber and shrank into pancake shape. Then, the people who saw this scene from afar seemed to hear painful screams that could resound through the soul. The faces of the three people changed drastically, and they all understood. Those were the painful screams of the group of demigod souls hidden in the cloud layer after being caught by the giant hand. Yam shouted softly, "Don't move, watch me." As she said that, she directly activated the divinity of the underworld soul, turning it into a spherical shield to block the Hades and the Zilu Mecha. These screams were shock waves directly targeting the soul, and their divine shields were not very efficient in blocking them. The soul shock waves that slipped through were enough to greatly affect the pilot in the cockpit. Zizzy, zizzy. The soul shock wave collided with the underworld divine shield, and a large number of ripples appeared. Yan frowned slightly. Even though this wave of soul shock waves was just the unconscious roars of the demigods, it had a very strong power due to the large amount of aggregation and the simultaneous release. Everyone's attention was still on the distant sunset. This majestic giant hand was pitch black, as if cast in a dark shadow. It had clear edges and corners, but it was extremely dark and light could not penetrate it. He grabbed the white clouds in his palm and kept rubbing them inwards. His movements were neat and gentle, and soon the clouds were rolled into a white ball, shrinking under his tiger's mouth. The soul roars that the demigod souls kept emitting gradually subsided. After a while, there was even more silence. The next scene shocked everyone even more. This majestic giant hand stretched out from the sunset, and threw the white ball condensed from the clouds into the sunset, like throwing candy. Ow! The sunset opened a huge crack on both sides of the sunset at a very fast speed, like a huge mouth, swallowing the white pills, and making a swallowing sound like thunder. The three of them couldn't help but be stunned. What on earth is this sunset? Sister Yan, can you still see the existence of those souls? Li Yu asked. After those souls were swallowed by the sunset, his prison-suppressing divinity could no longer feel that kind of restlessness. It seems that what attracted the prison-suppressing divinity was those substances that Yan called semigod-level souls. But here comes the question, how can souls attract the prison-suppressing divinity? Is it to use the prison-suppressing divinity to suppress some souls, which will produce some strange changes? After all, the prison-suppressing divinity is derived from the Hades divinity, and it has the characteristics of ice prison. Or, these souls are not normal souls? Is there another mystery? Li Yu was even more curious. I can't see it anymore. It was swallowed up in one breath by that majestic giant hand. Yan activated the detection system and observed carefully. Oh, no, there are still two fish that have slipped through the net. How about going over to take a look? Li Yu said. Let's go. Although we haven't found any traces of activity from the three Xibu-class star tribes just now, it may be possible that there is a difference in the entrance, so the farther away, the more we should take a look. However, that majestic giant hand is quite powerful. So we have to be careful when we go over there. The three of them did not have any accidents, and continued to accelerate and fly towards the sunset. 20 minutes later, the three divine mechas were very close to the sunset. If you look up a little, you can see the sunset hanging at an altitude of more than 60,000 meters above the ground, hovering in the air with a diameter of about a kilometer. Wow, a supergiant monster with an arm that has a diameter of a kilometer. This is the height of a quasi-god level mecha, right? Tanyaozu smacked his lips. Li Yu shook his head. It's probably more than that, maybe it's a supreme mecha. Tanyaozu said. No. When I was with you in Guotao Mountain, we could see super mechas as big as planets. Logically, that should be a supreme divine mecha, right? After all, although the sunset is big, the year-old giant just now is only 20,000 to 30,000 meters high at most. Li Yu said. That's right. There are also differences among the Supremas, and perhaps the span between the Supremas is greater than you and I imagined. After a discussion, the topic turned to the next action. Should we take the risk and go up to explore the situation around the sunset? Or should we return the original way and meet up with Lin Jianlong and the others? Li Yu said, how about this? I have a space suppression membrane that can isolate time and space. Even if that majestic giant hand grabs me, I can hide immediately. The safety is acceptable. I will go over and take a look. You wait here for me, how about that? Yan said. No, this is too dangerous. The power of this giant hand may not be able to break the space-time layer. With such a big target like you, once the giant hand's alert is triggered, the situation will be out of control. Tanyaozu also advised. That's right, this thing is obviously not something we can handle. Li Yu, it's not advisable to mess around. It's better to go back here. Our target is always the three Xibu-level star tribes. Li Yu is not a person who doesn't listen to advice. When he heard the two people say this, his thoughts faded a little, and he became alert instead. He thought to himself, it seems that my judgment has been affected by these souls. At this time, I can't take risks at will. With this thought, he directly entered the state of self-consciousness, quickly resolved the restlessness in his heart, and thought calmly. Although his air-suppressing membrane is very powerful, it can isolate most physical, divine, and energy shocks with its unique characteristics. Even if he tried his best to deal with it, He might not be able to withstand the impact of the majestic giant hand. But if you think about it carefully, there are too many uncontrollable factors. It is indeed very dangerous to rush over. In this case, let's go back home for the time being and make peace with Chief Lin and his men first, Li Yu said. Tanyaozu smiled and said, okay, we should make a stable decision at this time. Let's go. However, as soon as he finished speaking, a series of friction-like noises suddenly came from the sky. Immediately afterwards, 8 figures sprayed down from the bottom of the setting sun at high speed like dumplings. Bang! 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 These humanoid figures, who were only 2 meters tall, fell to the ground quickly and then slowly stood up. Everyone soon saw the form of these humanoid figures. They were actually armored men from the first era. Yan frowned and said quickly, be careful. The breath of these armored men is very similar to the souls that were just swallowed. They may be the same group of people, just wearing a layer of armored men's skin. Li Yu also noticed something was wrong. With the appearance of these people, his prison-suppressing divinity became agitated again. It seemed that there was some mysterious substance on these armored men that attracted the prison-suppressing divinity. Welcome, guests from the 6th era. As the few people were alert, they saw a 2-meter-5 tall, extremely majestic black armored man at the head speak. We are the messengers of the God of Years who have survived from the first year to this day. Are you also here to pursue the secrets of the secret book of years? Chapter 449 Ancestor. The messenger of the God of Time. The 3 of them were all suspicious. Feeling the implicit attitude in the other party's question, Li Yu spoke in the language of the first era. If we say that we are not here for the secret of the secret book of time, what will you do? The dark and majestic armored man looked up at the Pluto Mecha, and his eyes had extremely strong penetrating power and oppression. Even though Li Yu was in the cockpit, he still felt the power of this look, and his soul was slightly shaken. Wow, such a strong soul deterrent? This is at least a quasi-god. The majestic armored man said calmly, if you really don't come for the secret book of time, we welcome you very much. We will entertain you, serve you fine wine and delicious food, and take you to appreciate the best ancient scenery of the universe. But if you really come for this, then we will take action and exterminate your race. Don't doubt whether we have the strength to do it. In fact, with the awakening of the God of Years, in this era, no strong man can resist the great magical power and might of the God of Years. Not to mention, the 8 of us alone are enough to control you. The majestic armored man's words revealed calmness and confidence. While he was speaking, Li Yu and others were also carefully observing these armored men. These 8 armored men are all very powerful. Except for the leading majestic armored man with a black body, who has a quasi-god level aura, the other 7 are actually demigod level auras. You know, a quasi-god level strong man can already fight against an S-level mecha with his bare hands, and there is even a chance that he can win the battle. Li Yu and his team only have one S-class mecha, and it is fortunate that Yan is a demigod. Otherwise, they may not be stronger than the 8 people in front of them. If the supergiant with a height of tens of thousands of meters is added, they will have no room to resist. In essence, the secret of the secret book of time is not something that humans must obtain. As long as it is not obtained by the Star Clan, it doesn't matter. The key is to worry about this group of armored people. What they say is different from what they do. Tanyaozu transmitted his voice on the public channel. These ancient people are very powerful. It seems that they have been revived for a long time. They are not comparable to guys like Xingyu who have only been revived for a dozen years. Yan said, good brother, these people are very dangerous. Although we are not afraid of them, it is not advisable to conflict with them. Li Yu said, don't worry, I know my limits. After a quick exchange, Li Yu smiled and said, our race itself does not possess the divine treasures related to the secret book of time, and of course we will not come here all the way to find some illusory secrets. Originally, we just wanted to prevent the enemies of our race from obtaining these secrets and prevent them from using the secret book of time to kill the strong men of our race. The majestic armored man nodded slightly. Very good, it can be seen that your souls did not lie. Then we welcome the arrival of all human beings. I remember that you were born at the end of the 5th era. Right, I didn't expect to see you in this era. It seems that Daohu's plan should have been successful. Come with us, we will entertain you. If you want to stop your opponent from obtaining the secret of the secret book of time, we can also give you some information and help you a little. As they said this, the 8 armored men flashed divine flames outside their bodies and flew into the sky. Li Yu used the detection system to collect the brain waves emitted by the other party throughout the whole process and quickly deciphered and analyzed them. Preliminary judgment is that as long as his side does not reveal the intention of pursuing the secret of the secret book of time, they have no malicious intentions. It is worth mentioning that the brain waves emitted by these armored men are already very hidden, and should be actively converged by the soul. The reason why he was able to decipher it so quickly this time is, on the one hand, because his deciphering skills have become stronger and stronger, even if the breakthrough is perfect. On the other hand, it is because of the leap in brain power. On the third hand, it is because this time the brain waves are collected on the divine mecha, which has a bonus efficiency. Li Yu immediately controlled the Pluto mecha and followed. At the same time, he sent a message to Lin Jianlong and others on the communicator. Tan Yaozu did not stop Li Yu this time, because judging from the opponent's strength, if they really had malicious intentions, they would have started a war directly. Therefore, the credibility of the other party's words is not low. Yan did not say anything, and directly controlled the nether soul mech to catch up. While flying, Li Yu asked, "Sir, have you seen the ancestor of our human race?" The majestic armored man smiled and said, "Of course, Dao Hu Supreme once practiced under me and learned the way of fighting. After all, above the demigod, everyone wants to break away from the path of divine evolution and take a completely different path to truly transcend this universe. If you don't break away from the path of divine evolution, you will never be able to become a true god. Of course, Dao Hu's achievements later surpassed me by far. It's a pity that in this era, the top people will die in disasters, but the second top supremas and quasi-gods can live well. Damn." The three were shocked. Did he meet the teacher of the ancestor of mankind? Several people stood in awe. Even Yan, who had lost her memory, could feel the value of this title. Moreover, something deep in her memory was also disturbing her. After all, according to Lin Jianlong, the person hidden deep in her mind was none other than the ancestor of mankind, the supreme Dao Hu. Are you really an ancient species that has lived from the first era to this sixth era? The majestic armored man shook his head. That's not the case. I just revive 3,000 years before the disaster every time. In fact, my lifespan is only 100,000 years. I have lived through a long period of 90,000 years in the first era. Now, the years of revival before the disaster are just a last gasp. By the way, don't always call me your excellency. You can call me the Black Fate Quasi-God. The Supreme Fate once told me that my fate is born black, and I am born to be unlucky with my relatives and friends. So, I created the way of the Black Fate. Ha ha ha. During the conversation, the Black Fate Quasi-God didn't know if he had liberated his nature. He seemed to be more intimate while talking, and he smiled while looking up. At this time, as the crowd approached, a huge void crack suddenly opened at the bottom of the setting sun. Don't be nervous. This is the entrance to our Palace of Time. Just follow us in. You are very lucky. You happen to meet the awakened God of Time. Otherwise, even we can't enter the Palace of Time." Quasi-God Black Fate talked as he walked, and he seemed to be getting more and more interested in talking along the way. Li Yu drove the Pluto mecha close to the void rift, and felt a mysterious energy surge up, which was quickly absorbed by the prison suppression godhood he activated. He was slightly stunned. It turns out that the things that attract the prison suppression godhood are essentially these mysterious energies. After only absorbing it for a moment, the prison suppression godhood seemed to have a tendency to transform. Chapter 450, Crazy Sucking. Feeling the mysterious energy constantly sucked in from the surroundings of the void rift, Li Yu's heart was slightly shaken. Wow, the suction power of the prison suppression divine is so strong. The divinity of the entire Pluto mecha seemed to be ignited by Li Yu's trace of prison suppression divine, and it suddenly boiled up. Boom. The tyrannical load was transmitted from the Pluto mecha, and Li Yu's body sank slightly. This feeling was very similar to when he was promoted in the God Suppression prison and accepted the essence of Pluto. In such a short moment, he felt a fierce breath rising from the prison suppression divine. Is this the beginning of transformation? Not only is it a transformation, but it also drives the Pluto mecha to upgrade? No, it absorbs a large amount of mysterious energy from the outside world, and then transforms it into higher quality prison suppression divine through his flesh, and then further transforms the divinity of the Pluto mecha, transforming it into higher level divinity compatible with the prison suppression divine. And then completed a change similar to upgrading? At this moment, Li Yu, with his subtle perception, clearly sensed the efficient transformation inside the divine mecha and the changes in various divine structures. Boom! Like a thunderclap in his mind, a huge amount of information was transmitted in. Even Li Yi's brain, which had undergone several iterations of evolution, could not bear this information and had a splitting headache. He did not hesitate and quickly activated the 2.0 brain superlifting technique. Buzz! Not only that, there is also the 3.2 version of the explosive skill. Various divine characteristics were activated in the body, strengthening the blood vessels, meridians, and bones, hardening, toughening, microelectricity running through them, heating the blood, cooling the blood vessels, and quickly moving. All over the cerebral cortex, various brain cells were overclocked and exerted under his powerful immortal characteristics. Hey, the strength of the explosive skills and brain superlifting skills can be increased by several more times. Li Yi realized that the immortal characteristics were stabilizing each cell, allowing it to stably withstand the impact, and he was delighted, and immediately increased the intensity of the explosive skills and brain superlifting skills. Originally, with the improvement of his physical body and the increase of base number, the effect of these two burst skills has been greatly weakened. But now, with the blessing of the immortal characteristic on the physical body, these burst skills that have already reached the upper limit suddenly have a lot of room for exploration. Boom! The amazing breath flowed out from his breathing. The cells in the brain organs were activated to the limit by him, constantly overclocked, and the strength was raised. The brain cells were about to rub out sparks. In a moment, the information load brought by the upgrade of the divine mecha was reduced a lot. But even so, Li Yi still didn't feel good. This upgrade was completely different from the previous ones. This time, it was obviously caused by the strong absorption of the mysterious energy in the void rift by the prison god, which could not be stopped. Not only that, under his subtle perception, he also received a lot of detailed information about the transformation of the divine mecha. This is the first time in history. Before, no matter who the human was, he could not master the internal operation mechanism of the divine mecha. There is no way. The internal fast flow based on divinity and the black box technology encapsulates the internal device. Even the top scholars of mankind cannot crack the mystery. It is also fortunate that Li Yi at this moment not only has the perception reached a microscopic level of 10 nanometers, but also the 10 nanometer accuracy that can be recognized at high speed. The current microscopic detection instruments of mankind cannot perceive divinity and maintain such high-speed microscopic recognition accuracy at the same time. In addition, this special transformation and upgrade gave Li Yi such an opportunity to obtain a large amount of corresponding intelligence information about the internal mechanism. Sure enough, the divine mecha itself is just a huge biological mechanical body. The various delicate technologies and high-strength materials inside are all forged using high-quality divinity, with the current strongest human power being no more than that of a demigod. It is of course difficult to manufacture a divine mecha. What maintains the normal activities of this Pluto mecha is the divine nucleus located in the chest. Although it is only a high-level A-level nucleus, it has its own vast mechanism of cosmic space and time. The so-called mechization is to coat the inside and outside with a layer of high-dimensional space-time membrane, turning a divine mecha into a small universe, and the divine nucleus is the universe in the universe. Precisely because it is a small universe in itself, every divine mecha can repair itself and possess infinite power. No wonder this thing can quickly upgrade after receiving a large amount of divinity from the upgrade pool, but there is no change when receiving other ordinary divinity, because the divinity in the upgrade pool contains a huge amount of high-dimensional space-time energy. This is the secret of the divine nucleus having infinite energy after being mecha'd. This is the core technology. Without mecha to form the inner cycle of divinity, the divinity nucleus will soon be eroded and damaged by time. In an instant, Li Yi had countless insights in his mind. The principle of the divine mecha is so simple. No, it is not simple. It is purely because he has reached a certain level and can understand various space-time structures that he could not understand before. Since he mastered the air-suppressing membrane, he has been absorbing a large amount of space-time memory fragments every day, and his level is only getting higher. At this moment, he clearly realized that in essence, each divine mecha is formed by stealing a part of the divine origin of the universe. Therefore, the divine mecha can have almost infinite divinity. The essence of mecha is to seize the great power of creation of the universe and give it to this huge biological machine. The person who first invented the divine mecha must be a strong man above the supreme to complete such an operation. However, Although Li understands the general principle at this moment, in order to fully grasp the principles and details, he may need to continue to improve his knowledge of space-time. Not all of them need to be coated with a space-time membrane. Maybe a concept membrane will do, and this is the source of different sequences. Maybe it was a space-time sequence mecha at first, and then it was the imitation of various sequence concept mecha, for example, the god of fire, the god of ice, the god of thunder, and so on. Perhaps these different sequences of divine mecha are all imitations of the physiques of those dominant level or even possible true god level strongmen. With the inheritance of generations, it gradually decreased from the highest dominant level mecha to the mecha that ordinary novice evolvers can control. Li was still receiving a lot of information about the upgrade and changes of the Pluto mecha at this moment, and he did not stop the overclocking of his brain. However, as time passed, he gradually adapted to this change, and his brain power was obviously improved. At this time, he also paid attention to other changes in his divinity. The biggest change is the divine gene. The divine genes belonging to the three sequences of Pluto, Uranus, and Gaia were generated in large quantities. The speed of the formation was as fast as the first divine initiation he had encountered in Guotao Mountain. Moreover, his body had undergone more transformations this time, so he could obviously endure it for a longer time. My goodness, I have absorbed too much? Will the Black Life Quasi-God doubt my purpose? End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.